Welcome to the Board of Education, Finance and Operations work session. Today is April 12th. And today we will have a presentation, a budget update on our draft 2023 and 24 budget from our excellent Chief Financial Officer, Mr. James Barnes. And I'll turn it over to you, Superintendent, to introduce them.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. Thank you. So yes, tonight we're going to hear from our Chief Financial Officer, Mr. Barnes. He is doing incredible work. You will hear about where we are in our budget approval process, as well as where we are with our school-based budgeting process. I'm pleased to share that thus far we're on target. All of the work that Mr. Barnes does is aligned to the work that is entailed in our strategic plan. I'm very excited most about one of the things you're going to hear about from Mr. Barnes is how he is not only engaged in the work right now, but how he's planning to forecast for the future, for the next several years. And so that's really, really important. I don't know that I've ever heard that before, so I'm really excited to hear that, and I think you will be also. So I'll turn things over to you, Mr. Barnes.
Thank you, Superintendent and Mrs. Woods. Good evening, everybody. Admir, could you put up the presentation? So tonight we're going to give you an update on what we call our level 3 budget. Admir, next slide, please. Okay, so the 23-24 budget process approval levels. As we all know, the Board of Ed's a large organization, $1.6 billion in revenues, 5 different funds, 70 departments, over 7,000 salary and hourly staff. So in order to assure that all those areas are input and checked, we separate out the budget process into 5 different approval levels. Each has its own set of tasks. So level 1 is what we call our maintenance of effort budget. That's used for us to provide the superintendent and the administration with an initial direction of how next year looks based upon known revenues and the impact of contract step and longevity increases for current staffing. Our level 1 showed a $39.9 million deficit. We then we archive and roll those to level 2. In level 2, the revenues are revised for the governor's proposed revenue budget and the expenditure request entered by the departments. These department budgets were then reviewed and confirmed during CFO and cabinet meetings, and that's used to confirm their entry and make sure that we're all on the same page before we present anything to the superintendent. And those went very well. All the cabinet members who joined in, I really want to thank them. The level 2 showed a deficit of $32.2 million. In each level of review, we scrub the data, we revise the data. We're always archiving the level before, but as we move through the levels, the surpluses or deficit will change. We're currently at level 3. Here, the revenues are going to be revised for the final state budget. The superintendent will approve new initiatives and unbudgeted requests. The formula-based, school-based budget process will be incorporated into the budget, and the superintendent's equity holdback will be established. Please note the school-based budget process will not be completed now to April 17th. We lost the day yesterday with the network outages, but they're going very well. Right now, in the numbers I'll show you, level 3 currently shows a $34.3 million deficit. Once we're done with level 3, we roll that to level 4. This is where the final school-based budgets will be swapped out for the placeholders that we currently have in munis. Final data scrubbing will occur, and the superintendent will recommend a reserve amount to close any deficit and balance the budget. This final level 4 budget, including all the school-based budget book, will be presented to the board at the May 17th meeting for approval. Lastly, level 5 is the board-approved budget. This is the file that we use to import into our Munis accounting system, and people can start spending their approved budget money. Thanks for your patience in letting me review that, but it helps me get centered as well. Admir, next slide. So just some quick introductory remarks about the 23-24 budget. This budget will provide the funding necessary to successfully implement the 5 strategic goals of the district. I've shortened them somewhat here, but to eliminate opportunity and achievement gaps, access to educational excellence, accelerated learning, and enhanced operations and facilities, prioritizing safety, security, and wellness, amplify all voices and cultivate trust, and to activate partnerships. Often during the budget process, we get into big discussions about what's not in the budget and what we'd like to see in the budget. I'm very excited about next year's budget process because of everything that's already in the budget and approved by the superintendent. I'm going to give you some specific examples of proposed or funded new initiatives in the level 3 budget. Including current year activity, over $29 million in general funds have been committed to capital projects. All Hyde Stadium, a school late renovation for the swing school for Da Vinci, and about $10 million in funding for miscellaneous other projects. This is part of the superintendent's plan to catch up with about 10 years of building renovations and moves being put on hold. In the level 3 budget are enhanced security programs, including 30 additional security guards, a deputy, and funds for training. There's a large proposed increase in athletics funding already in level 3, and increased funding for family and community engagement type activities. Everything from the Office of Parent and Family Engagement, PEL funding, CSP, adult ed outreach, and those community partners that are going to be very important next year. We've also increased funding for CLRI related programs. So we're really starting out very early in the budget year with the superintendent already incorporating increases in areas that are directly tied to the 5 strategic goals and listening to the voices of both the community and board members. Another thing to keep in mind, though, all FTEs that are currently funded in ARP ESSER will remain in ARP ESSER for the final year of that grant. Another note, what's loaded in level 3 is a very large placeholder for our proposed cost of the BTF contract. Just a note, if it's not settled during the 22-23 year, major accounting and budget changes have to be made both to the current year and next year. So it's another reason everybody just wants to get it settled. Admir, next slide, please. Thought I'd start with just an overview of the surplus and deficit summary. The first 2 columns, these are the current year numbers. The approved budget, the first column, we started out with budgeted revenues of $985 million and expenditures of $1.020 billion. That was a deficit of $34.6 million. We planned on using that amount of our reserves to balance the budget. Every quarter, we update our financial statements and project out the remainder of the year. Our projection, the last projection we did was as December 31st, the second quarter. Our revenues were expected to grow by about $3 million over the original budget, largely due to sales tax. Our expenditures were going to come in lower, about $1.4 billion versus $1.020 billion. So our projected deficit decreased from the original 34.6 to about 16.1, and we still plan on using reserves to close that gap. I thought the current year and the current year projection will give you some nice background for how we're doing this budget year. As I talked about, we have different levels. The level 1 maintenance of effort budget showed a deficit of $39 million. Then we went to level 2 where the departments entered all their budget requests and we met with cabinet and scrubbed the data. That resulted in a deficit of $32 million. Tonight, as of this afternoon, the level 3 budget, prior to the school-based budget being closed out, show a deficit of $34 million. This includes a lot of those initiatives that I spoke about on the previous page. I think that just shows you a nice progression and the fact that each and every year we have a budget deficit that has been closed by the proposed use of reserves. Admir, next slide, please. And one last comment on that previous slide. This budget year, even with all those new initiatives, is going very well, and they're tracking very well historically, largely based on the historic increase in our state aid. So this next slide, I'm going to take a bit of a deep dive into the level 3 revenues. The first column is the prior year actual, $939 million. The second column is our current year budget, $1,020 million. But if you go up a couple of lines, the subtotal of our revenues prior to the use of reserves is $985,500,000. And then what you'll see is I broke down the numerous revenue lines into several categories, such as what we get from the city, sales tax, interfund, which is largely indirect costs that we get to capture from all the grant activity, including our ESSER. A certain percentage is charged to the general fund as revenue for all the work we do to cover the administration of those grants. Medicaid reimbursements and all other revenues, which is largely invoicing to other districts for services. Then there's a breakdown of the state aid, foundation aid, transportation, building aid, with the subtotal at the bottom. In the current year, we're expecting $843,689 in state aid. Now we're going to jump to the blue column. Here's our level 3 revenues. A couple of things to note. We basically kept the non-state aid revenues flat. The city gives us about the same amount every year. Sales tax, we budget conservatively. We put in $48.7 million the last few years. The actuals have been tracking a little higher. Interfund, Medicaid, and all other sources of revenue, we budgeted flat with the current year. Now here's the interesting part. State aid. Foundation aid is expected to increase by $69 million or 11%. Transportation aid is expected to increase $9.4 million or 22%. Building aid is expected to drop $5.8 million, and that makes sense. We largely use building aid to cover the debt service that we incurred during prior years to fund major renovations and the building condition survey. You'll see a corresponding drop in our debt service on the expenditure report. Special services aid, it's largely CTE related. That's expected to drop nominally by $787,000. And all other state aid is expected to go up by about $3 million. All other state aid includes things like public and private high cost, charter school supplemental and transitional aid, and our textbook, software, hardware, and library aid. So overall, if we go to the second last column, our total revenues before reserves are expected to increase by $75 million, or 7.6%. Now, an update on the final state budget. those numbers, we will not have those numbers till probably the middle of next week. We are hoping for some increases in certain amounts of these aids. They're talking about increasing the health and welfare, potentially more for CSP related activities, and potentially more in special services or CTE related aid. So no promises, but when those numbers come out, these revenues could go up marginally, by a couple million really. That's next week. Next slide, Edmund. Now, I hope this isn't too hard to see, but I believe you all have hard copies. Here's an expenditure review for the level 3 budget. Remember, our general fund budget alone has 17,000 lines. So tonight I'm presenting it in terms of what's called character codes. They are groupings of related object codes. But I think it gives you an overall view of where we are in level 3. So a couple things to talk about. I highlighted some of these lines, but let's start right at the bottom. The first column is the sum of the current year, 4,901 FTEs. And there's our current year $1,020 million budget. What's in level 3? 4,940 FTEs and $1,094,000. So it's an increase of about 39 FTEs and $74 million. Again, what's incorporated in this, and I'm going to touch on this as I review that first line in green, BTF teachers. The last two columns show the change from level 3 to our current year. The FTEs are about flat, and as they should be at this stage of the budget process. But you see the costs go up $2.1 million. So even without a contract, we included in next year's budget all the step increases that people get. So even without a contract and no increase in FTE, those costs still go up $2.1 million. What I said about step longevity and contract increases, that applies to all the other salary-related groups, such as BCSA, teacher aides, trades, local 264. I do want to point out the second line in green, PICTA. It's up 27.6 FTEs and 1.5 million. This includes the additional 30 security guards that I talked about. And then a reduction in PICTA, two of which are related to the increase in exempt positions. And I can answer any questions on those. The next line in yellow or orange that I want to talk about is our contingency. You see the $59.2 million? $51 million of that is the set aside or placeholder for a teacher, the second year of the teacher contract, our proposed teacher contract. The remaining amount is used throughout the year for various reasons, but $51 million is in there for the second year of the teacher's contract. The next line in green is contract miscellaneous. See, that's increased by 4.8 million. In there is a placeholder to incorporate anything and everything that comes out of the school-based budget process. Then the schools are buying equipment, they're buying textbooks, they're buying. That $4.8 million increase will be reduced, and a lot of the lines you see as relatively small negatives, like textbooks, supplies, those will be populated by the actual school-based budget numbers and increase. So we're sort of at a transitional point in the budget where there's a lot of placeholders in these numbers here, waiting upon the completion of the school-based budget. The next one I outlined was transportation. That budget is expected to go up by 8.2 million. Various reasons for that, and this is somewhat related to our conservative budgeting. We're budgeting for about 25 additional buses than we have in the current year. There's a contract increase with First Student. And there's a large increase for our contract number 8 that is related to athletics transportation. So this really is, and it does not include any reduction in costs upon the settlement of a BTF contract and the 3 Bell savings. So that's a conservative number, but we make sure we cover every potential expenditure in these numbers. The next one I highlighted is tuition. These are the amounts we pay to agencies. That's expected to drop by 1.5 million. We're sending less kids to agencies. The next line in green, charter tuitions. They're expected to go up about 9.2 million. Again, this is somewhat of a worst case projection. We're projecting about a 7% increase in enrollment at the charters. They've probably been, the growth in charters, it still grows every year, but it's been slowing. Just like our enrollments have been declining, but at a slower rate. So we could have some savings there, but I just wanted to run with historical trends and make sure I got everything in this budget and I'm never cut short. The last 2 lines, debt service will go down $7.6 million. But please note, we still make $101 million in principal and interest payments every year. That expenditure goes down and mirrors the decrease in building aid on our revenue side. Lastly, interfund transfers are expected to drop by $3 million. I mentioned earlier that we've put about $29 million in general fund resources to capital projects. That will end next year. I think the superintendent and that allocation of general fund resources has gotten us over the hump, has covered a lot of emergencies, and now we're going to start getting back to more long-term planning and the use of the tried and true building aid methods by applying through the state. So that's the overview of expenditures. I hope the categories we put them in there can be somewhat enlightening at this time. Admir, next up. Or next slide. I'm reading the title. Here's next steps. We lost a day in the school-based budget process yesterday, so April 17th, the school-based budget books will be completed. April, now probably 18th or 19th, the ASLs will submit a consolidated list of unbudgeted requests to the superintendent. April 20th, let's say now, the budget department will complete a reconciliation of the Munis school-based budget books to Munis. I told you we had placeholders in there. We'll actually reconcile every line and give the school exactly what they picked. And at the same time, there's a calculation of the superintendent's equity holdback. I'm hoping by April 19th, the final state budget and revenues will be issued. And then to be determined, depending on everything I just spoke about, the superintendent will review the school-based budget books and the unbudgeted request with the ASLs. Next, after we get the school-based budget numbers set, the superintendents review them. Then we've talked about having a meeting with board members Cottman, Woods, and Shuda to review any of their equity overlay concerns. We need to get the documents in place and the initial numbers set and the superintendent review of them prior to that meeting having any kind of consequence or any kind of meeting. On May 1st, a draft budget book will be distributed to the board for review. It'll be much in the same format as in prior years. That'll give us a couple of weeks to answer your questions, your concerns. And on May 17th at the board meeting, we hope we vote on approving the budget. To be determined, there'll be an updated 4-year plan I would like to have it reviewed and approved by the board and send it off to the Fiscal Stability Authority, and most importantly for our own personal or our own internal use. Admin, next slide. So just for a minute, I'm going to talk about a 4-year plan, critical trends and a look ahead. Boy, we're going through a lot of changes. Student needs, community needs, huge increases in state aid, a new BTF contract, a new focus on getting our building stock up and running. The only way to view the impact of all of these things is through a long-term plan. Like we're projecting out a deficit this year right now of about 34 million. That's fine for 1 year. We have plenty of reserves to cover that. But as you start putting in all these trends and other factors, which I'll touch on, you need to see how it maps out for a 4-year period and the impact on your reserves. Some of the factors that we'll incorporate in there is the enrollment decline of about 3,000 students over 4 years, including approximately 600 students year over year. Increases in charter enrollments of approximately 1,200 and over 4 years and 330 over the year over year. Foundation aid will be negatively impacted by these enrollment decreases. However, offsetting that somewhat may be on an estimated consumer price index, which has become a more important part of foundation aid during these times, and any other new programs that the state may unroll to address the social and emotional needs of our children going forward. So while we talk about enrollment declines and they'll be factored into the 4-year plan, we're also aware the needs of our students have increased since COVID. That's the balancing act, I guess. A settled BTF contract will add approximately $224 million in cost from the current year out through 25-26. That's our proposal. Vacancies and vacancy savings may continue to impact operations, financial results, and financial planning. We're all aware of the vacancy savings, but a couple of notes here. HR and the budget department are working on an updated vacancy report. I do want to point out that HR and Tammy, they've really done a good job cleaning up the databases that allow us to get good data. And that's called position control and employee job salary. So we can now more accurately identify the staffing, budgets, actuals, and vacancies in various areas. So we'll get you out a vacancy report. And then a quick comment on vacancies. And all this comes up as you're really thinking hard about what's going to happen over the next 4 years. The comments on school-based budgets as we're finishing them up. We see the decline in enrollment. They're offset by the greater needs of our children. And it's a nationwide problem of filling whatever budget you have for these positions. I mean, everybody reads it, everybody sees it, everybody feels it every day. So to a concern Mrs. Cotman has had, we will allow schools to swap out their FTEs for other purposes in October. Okay, so we moved it up 2 months. But what I want to stress there, and I've had conversations with Ms. Coppin and Mrs. Woods, during the school-based budget process, if they know with the declining enrollments at every school, and if they know that it's almost impossible on a national level to fill the vacancies, maybe it's time everybody starts thinking about other ways to get these kids services and not just throwing in FTEs. That will also give you a truer, more accurate vacancy rate. Rather than just bumping up your FTEs in your budget, absorbing budget resources, knowing they're not going to get filled. Maybe there's a better way to do it. But I think Mrs. Gottlieb, it's a good first step. We can do that swap out in October.
Hercules, Hercules, Hercules.
Pardon?
You wouldn't know if you didn't watch Eddie Murphy what that means.
Okay, all right. Last 2 points. It's the last year of ARP ESSER funding. Prior to getting into what's in the final year budget, we have to spend out the $89.2 million ESSER 2 budget by September 30th. And on that score, right now, we've either spent or encumbered about 70%, $62 million of that 89.2, but the balance was budgeted for the BTF bonus. So if that does happen and we sign it, and we all certainly hope we do, then the ESSER 2 will almost be perfectly spent. If that doesn't happen, we got to go to Plan B, and I have that. I won't bore you with it now, but it's largely shifting expenditures from ESSER 3 to ESSER 2 to get that filled out. The grants department will be constructing a proposed final year ESSER 3 once we get ESSER 2 all buttoned up. So the 4-year plan is going to incorporate all these factors and trends and give us a really good feel of not only, we're going to have a great budget year next year. It's just off to a great start. And thank you to the superintendent and the school-based teams and the cabinet. But we got to look beyond that, incorporate these changes to see how it all shakes out and its impact on our reserves. So thank you very much. Anybody has questions?
I see Larry Scott's hand up, and then Sharon Button-Cotman. I'm not sure which one's first, and then Terrence.
Larry can go first, and then Terrence's hand is up, and I'll wait till after they do their question.
Thank you, Ms. Woods. So, Mr. Barnes, you mentioned that transportation cost is going up, and I think you cited just first student, not anything with NFTA.
NFTA as well. I'm sorry, NFTA is as well. Yeah.
So it's a two-part question. We have cut significant amount of routes over the past 2 years, and we are not providing after-school transportation. So what has been the savings from both of those currently? And then you had cited, and maybe you misstated this, you had cited the potential 3-bell system as a way to potentially save more money. And that's what I'm afraid of, that the 3-bell system hasn't been marketed as a cost-saving measure, but more to provide more reliable, timely service and potentially after-school transportation. So what's the savings? Is there any savings right now with the route reduction, no after-school transportation? And then how is the 3-bell system or potential 3-bell system going to save money?
Sure. Okay, those are great questions. I'm going to answer your last one, the 3-bell system. We budgeted $8 million increase. That includes, I think, 25 more buses than we currently have. It includes almost $1.5 million more for transportation for athletic-related events. It includes a 2.3% contract, or a 3% contract increase. And it also includes a full allotment of bus aids. It does not include any savings for the 3-bell system. And you're correct. Cost savings was not the driving force for that. However, per Cheryl and now Joe Goshen, they think we could probably reduce the buses by 50 and still achieve our goals. So I don't include any of the savings in there. These are best case for the district, that there's more buses, more aides, kids are going to every athletic event. That's what's in the budget. When the bus routes were cut and the routes changed and the number of buses dropped due to the bus driver shortages, we probably saved $9 to $10 million. So this budget is an optimistic look at a forward program, including after school and increased athletics. So it's an optimistic look from that view, and it's a conservative financial look. If those optimistic assumptions do not occur, we're going to spend less, and we won't be spending $8.2 million more. We could break even. So a conservative budget with optimistic assumptions.
Okay. So this isn't directed at you, Mr. Barnes, but I am in hearing that we're potentially would reduce 50 buses if there's a 3-bell system. Makes me more skeptical that this is really truly going to address remaining transportation inequities that we have, and that it is intended to now bring back transportation for after school program. Because in my opinion, or in my mind, it should be increasing costs because we should now be providing more transportation.
Any and all of those increased costs are included in here. I didn't include any savings related to changes in routes for the 3-bell system.
But when I hear that we're going to potentially have fewer bus drivers needed under a 3-bell system, that to me contradicts this whole dilemma that we have been short drivers, and that has been the driving reason for the crisis.
It's going from a budget of a full complement of buses, right, to where we're really running at right now, which is well below the $53 million here, and it's striking that middle ground where you will end up with transportation for after-school programs. That's all built into this. Maybe I'm not being clear by mixing the different years, and transportation expenditures have whipsawed like this the last 2-3 years. So I can follow up, myself and Joe Goshen, and provide you any answers to your concerns that you just voiced.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Barnes. That's all I have.
Mr. Hurd?
Yes, thank you so much, Chairwoman Woods. And thank you, Mr. Barnes, for the report. It was very extensive, and so you put a lot of work and a lot of hard hours into working with the superintendent and getting it formulated, to look at our 5-year plan. I do have a couple of concerns about the budget. One of them was the after-school transportation issue, in which we are encompassing more after-school activity, especially with our sports programs, and bringing in the modified unified sports programs. I want to see how that's going to be affected along now these reclaim no after-school transportation. Are we looking at for NFTA passes to be given to students, to allocate these programs, or are we looking to some other type of transportation for our students of need?
This level 3 budget, when it's completed, will include, I think it's roughly $2 million or so. It's superintendent's final decision of proposed increases in modified sports and all those programs that started this year. It includes about $1.9 million in vans and buses called our Contract 8 with First Student. That's about another $1.9 million. So this budget grows all these areas that the board's been talking about and that have been near and dear to the superintendent. It grows every single one of them.
So, but with the term that you're reflecting, no after-school transportation, but there is going to be transportation.
No, this budget includes a hefty amount for after-school transportation.
Okay, just want to be clear on that because it looked like it
Yes.
was a mixed message going out. And I see
Yeah,
you said
if I said something wrong, I apologize. No, this is based on optimistic assumptions that all that's coming back stronger than ever.
okay, and with this budget, you know, I want to ask to include line item reports on basically our modified unified sports project. Know some things that we wanted, you know, to include in our upgrades. Some of the things we'll upgrade to our current fields, new stadium preparation for looking into see how that will manifest within the city of Buffalo, and also a field house over at the All High. So those are some of the concerns that our community have, and some of the things that we've been fighting for, to see if that's actually included in this new budget, and see where that lay at. We just want to make sure those things were included, and included with our capital updates also.
Okay, a couple of things. Superintendent and I have many more planned meetings, but within a couple of weeks, we'll be giving you a draft line item budget. We need to, superintendent and I and some cabinet members need to meet on a few things, but you'll be getting that. And then keep in mind, you talked about general fund operational expansion of athletics. That'll be in here. And your capital projects, that's got to be left to the side to discuss with the capital spending committee.
Okay, I know you guys are doing a great job putting this together, but I believe the line items are very important as we move forward, just to make sure that we get the coverage that we needed, and you know, just giving us a out view of what the budget looks like is great. It's great, but the line items are very important. So the things that we're fighting for, the things that we're planning, make sure those are addressed in this budget, and it can go as far as it can go. Another thing I wanted to hear more about was our arts department, music and arts, within, especially in our elementary programs, that feeds up to our high school programs, and developing those and making sure those are in compliance with our state charter. So are those going to be also included as line items in this budget?
They'll be included in as line items, but also in the school-based budget books. That's part of the school-based budget process.
Okay, we did work with the arts department to and ask for an overview of things that's needed for each building, elementary building, as far as that may go into auditorium, as far as lighting for stage presentations, as far as having the acoustics applied correctly, you know, for each stadium for presentations, and also instruments. So those are some of the things that's very important as we move forward to develop these areas in our arts, and making sure that we are in compliance, you know, each and every school that's represented. So if we can see those also, the recommendations for each building as we move forward, you know, for me to vote to have this approved, I'd like to make sure that those things are included so that we can push forward.
You'll see art by school in the school-based budget process. And then Michelle Augusto submitted some new spending requests on the department level to the superintendent. So all that's currently in process, being discussed, and the school-based budget will be finalized next Monday.
Okay. And we also, from our senator, we also received funding for transportation also. I don't know if that we received that now as of yet, but I want to make an inquiry about that, which is supposed to, the board, we talked about using that for a van for transportation for our sports program, modified elementary sports program, and a unified sports program, so they can all be encompassed with it. So we can look into that also, see if that's included into the budget or if that's going to be something separate.
We've received $250,000, and we just received it, and it can be used for any purposes, actually. That's how it comes from the state. But that's a non-budget issue. That'll be a separate issue to be discussed with the superintendent.
Okay, we discussed that previously in board meetings, and you know, we talked about if the board's still in agreement with it, using that for the modified sports for transportation for our younger students. So we want to rely on other bus services and coaches who are already been certified to drive these vehicles, these vans. They can make use of them.
So I believe we just got the funding in
Yeah.
for those. And when we
Great.
looked at the vans, which we're still looking at, but that means that we have to have CDL certified drivers, just like we do for the buses. And we know it's a shortage of, bus drivers. So it's something that, Mr. Barnes and I are discussing, and, we'll bring it forward. But, at this point, we're prioritizing, we want to get as much as we can in the budget, but we may not be able to get everything into, next year's budget. So.
Right.
So thank you, Superintendent Williams. But we went to our coaches meetings, and they all stated that, they were certified as coaches to drive these 19 passenger carrier vans, and that was already one of their certifications. So if that's already in place, we wouldn't need that CDL certification. I don't believe, so we can also follow the district lead and check with New York State rules and regulations.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Thank you again. Thank you. Yield my time on the floor. Thank you, Chairwoman Woods. Thank you, Mr. Barnes and Superintendent Williams.
Mhm.
Board President Sharon Catman, you're up.
Nope. You hear?
Sharon, we can't hear you.
Sorry about that. Thank you for your presentation. You have a way of presenting that makes it easier for us to understand. I'm sure that has a lot to do with working with Chairperson Woods and her ability to frame things in a nice way. I have a couple of questions, and some of them are operational. And you may not be able to answer them, but I think it's important as part of this processing or this budget process, and particularly when I hear you saying that we have a contract increase with First Student that possibly going up 3% this year, particularly when they have not been able to honor their contract. And I have a concern as to why automatically their contract gets automatically renewed or increased without renegotiating what has happened over the past 2 years with their lack of their ability, no disrespect intended, to provide us with drivers. Okay, so I don't feel that they should automatically, or there should be an automatic conversation, irregardless of what the contract currently says, that they should automatically be expecting to get a 3% increase when they have not followed their contract. So you have to help me understand why that's I know you said that your budget was optimistic and conservative. I got that. But please explain to me why they automatically feel that they're entitled to that at this point.
It's much the same answer. I budget the expenditures conservatively, somewhat on the worst case. We do have an existing contract with them that calls for a 3% increase next year. I put that in the budget. Now, operationally, should we always be striving to do better than that through either a renegotiation or a credit due to lack of drivers? Sure, but I never want to put, I
got you. I understand.
Not be conservative on the budget. Yeah.
I understand, and I appreciate that, but I think it's worth bringing that point to the
Sure.
table. And I think First Student needs to be aware that the board is concerned about any agreement that we have with them, and they have not been able to honor their contract accordingly. You Chairperson Woods, I appreciate if you're involved in that conversation. I know you can handle it accordingly on behalf of the board players. So I just wanted to put that out there. The concern for less kids to agencies, I would like to have that brought to another committee. That's not something I expect for you to explain, but I want to know why there are less kids to agency when I'm being told that we need to even consider doing our own agencies to meet the needs of our students. And that's why. The other thing that is concerning to me is that I'm being told that we're leaving money on the table in regards to our special ed operation, that we should be billing, Madam Superintendent, we should be billing for services that we are not, and that we are not receiving the money that we should receive, Madam Chair person in this area. And I think that we need to open that up, particularly when I think about the 4-year plan. When we talk about, I would like to see in that plan a distinct section that deals with revenue generating opportunities. I think we're missing that. And the other piece is, as this board moves forward to being more effective in governance, that we make sure that we put a category of some sort that deals with the ongoing concerns of our community. One of the things I would like to see, that this would be the first year that the budget is rolled out to the community in a community meeting. I don't know how we would do it. We can talk about it, Madam Superintendent, at a later time. But one of the things in effective training that we recently received is about getting the communities and actual voice involved in things. It's one thing for a board member to say something. It's another thing for us to actually hear it directly from the community. So I would like for us to start with the rollout of the budget, and then maybe we can start subsequently having additional meetings to talk about what the community feels that we need to do. And I think that will help us this summer as we're working on redefining our goals for our district. And I think that would be a big plus. But I'm very impressed with the work that's being done. I appreciate the fact that you listen and you hear what the board is saying. I also want to remind the board that part of being effective is to allow the superintendent, welcome Jen, welcome, to allow the superintendent to do her work. And one of the things, Madam Superintendent, I still think that we need to put in place to help you do that is that the board, that there might be a form that you could create, particularly when we're having a meeting like this and we're talking about finance and operations, that if things come up, the board can direct via, it can be in a system. You just go in and type in your questions or whatever, and all the board members can see it or whatever. And then you can get back to us, because as we work on being more effective and efficient in our board meetings, this might help. I know you are aware of the concerns associated with transportation with athletics. And I know that that's one of the things that Dr. Reynolds and Mr. Mike House are working on. But I think that if the board, if we want to come off subject, we should do that. But I really want to find out why less kids are going to agencies, and that needs to be in a subsequent board meeting. And I need to find out, make sure that you add some categories. And I don't know what the 4-year plan looks like, Jim, what dimensions you have. I don't know what it falls under. So you might have it already there, falling under another category or something. But let's just now start focusing in on how we move the board into being effective as school board leaders in this district. And that's the reason for the training. And, we don't want to get out of the micromanaging aspect of it. We want to give our concerns to the superintendent or however and move it forward. Okay? Do y'all appreciate that? Thank you. Thank you for the work you're doing.
Okay, I don't see any other hands up, but I do want to ask the question, since the board is talking about aligning resources, the budget showing how the resources are being used to achieve the goals that the superintendent set. And I commend superintendent and our CFO, because they're showing you that's the focus of the reporting. But our training said that we have to have a vision of what the community wants. And all of us are expressing that transportation is a very loud, clear cry from the community that the children need to get to school. They need to have a full complement of activities, arts, sports, etc. So what I heard you say, Mr. CFO, is that there are 25 additional buses included in the transportation budget, because that's part of why there is an increase. So that's the first thing, 25 additional buses.
Yes.
Then I heard you say there's a full complement of bus aids. That's the vision of the community. They want
Yes.
bus aids and safety.
Yes,
Then I hear you say that there is a 3%
yep,
contract increase because we signed the contract.
correct.
But if we don't receive the services, we don't pay for services that we don't receive, right?
That's right.
So there is a savings in the transportation area. That's, if they're not giving us a service, we don't pay.
Potentially, yes, you're correct.
And part of that increase is also because didn't we raise the salaries to try
Yes.
to attract more bus drivers?
That's correct.
So it seems like the Buffalo school system is doing a valid effort, everything they can to meet the community's demand for addressing this transportation problem.
Chairman Woods, in addition to that, you didn't highlight the security officers, the additional security officers that he's proposing as well.
Yeah, if I could summarize and then get off stage without any further questions, we are doing really well with this budget process, and I'll go back to the second or third page. The superintendent's already committed and instructed us to fund at this early stage of the budget process. $29 million in general funds have been committed to capital, rebuilding, enhanced security programs, including 30 security guards, additional training, a large proposed increase in athletics, increased funding for community engagement activities, everything from OPFE to community partners, and an increase for the CLRI program. It's a great start to a budget, and these superintendents already put the money to line up perfectly with the strategic goals, and we're only midway through the budget process.
So I think board members can recognize they're doing a yeoman's job here. And the concerns on the vacancies is being addressed also. So all I can say is we have a superintendent that hears, that responds, and that respects the board's concern. And we have a very able CFO. So kudos. If there's no other questions, we can close out the Finance and Ops Committee with remarks from our superintendent if she has any.
Wait a minute, can I say one thing in there, Madam Superintendent, before you do? We also have a very competent board member who is running the Finance and Operations Committee. Kudos to you too, Mrs. Woods. I know you work behind the scenes to do that. We appreciate the work you're doing.
Team. It has been a team effort, and I hope that, you know, what you heard tonight gives you confidence that we are moving in the right direction to achieve the goals that we have in place. The budget really is the impetus for us achieving the goals that we have set. And so it's our desire to bring back to you a quality, focused, equity, you know, equity infused budget. So, you know, this year, I hope that what you leave with is knowing that it's not business as usual. We have modified some things. We have heard the concerns from you. I think it's a great idea to roll out to the community, to give the community an opportunity to know these are their children, you know, how these dollars will impact their children. I think that's a great idea. And it's something that I've heard tonight. So we'll get started on, you know, going to different sectors of the community to get some feedback from them on how, you know, we're planning to utilize these dollars and the plans that we have moving forward. I think that Mr. Barnes is visionary. He is doing a fantastic job. He really is. He keeps me updated. And as our board president said, you know, he takes complex data and information and he makes it very, very comprehensive So I thank you very much, Mr. Barnes. I know you're here often on Sundays. You know, you're working late. I appreciate all that you do. It's not easy to pull together all that, you know, you and your staff do, but it's a kudos to you and your staff and certainly to our chairwoman. So.
Thank you, Superintendent. Thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
Well, my final remark is that there is also an equity set aside in the budget so that when you have to address those issues through the year, there is an allocation in there for that. Okay, board members, I'll turn it over to Executive Affairs, Vice President Kathy Evans Brown.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I see Jennifer. Hey, Jennifer. Are you in Puerto Rico?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
With our kids.
So you're with your kids. So prior to announcing what we're planning to do with the executive affairs, I would like to give Jennifer, board member Jennifer, and the children who are now currently in Puerto Rico an opportunity.
Yeah, they're coming on a different computer. They're going to be downstairs with Dr. Morel. I just wanted to say hey, but I'd love for the children to be able to talk about what they're experiencing here. And I'm going to put something on my face because it's burning up.
Oh, you look like you're
yeah. The sun in Puerto Rico is pretty disrespectful.
So how long do you need to set up?
Well, they're fine. They're ready to go. So I'm just here and bring in Dr. Morel and the kids whenever you're ready.
Okay, I think we're ready. Right, guys? We're just going to deviate.
We're ready. I just texted her to let her know that we're ready.
Okay.
Buenas noches de Puerto Rico, Superintendente Williams y los miembros estimados de la Junta de Educación. Good evening from Puerto Rico, Superintendent Williams and esteemed Board of Education members. Hello, everyone. Hola.
Hello. Hola.
We won't take up too much time. We had a really busy day. Thank you, Superintendent Williams, for allowing us this opportunity. And of course, Dr. Kathy Evans Brown for allowing us to come in for about 5 minutes of your time just to bring greetings from Puerto Rico. Thank you. And for the students to be able to talk a little about their key learning. And we want to just say again, thank you for this opportunity for us to learn so much and such an impactful opportunity for our kids. And so I'm going to now turn it over. We'll start with Paul. If he can just, can you see? I can see.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead, Tom.
So far, what really stood out to me was we took a tour and we met with the Corridor Afro, which their mission was to preserve the culture of Afro descendants in Puerto Rico and the Caribbean, because many times the African part of the culture in islands, as in the Caribbean islands, get erased. So then make sure that it's not erased and that people still remember and that their message and everything that they fought for lives on forever. Another thing that I really liked about Puerto Rico so far was we just came back from El Porto, which is a rainforest, which was really beautiful. It was really nice. We also went to a waterfall, which today with the tours we got to see the different life and how the animals of Puerto Rico are significant to that land. We've seen how.
Okay, very good. Muchas gracias. Okay, now Noah Acevedo, can you come in? Okay, what do we change that? Okay. Okay, very good. Muy bien, muy bien. Okay, go.
Hello. For me, what was really enlightening was I learned about kind of the explanation behind the diversity in skin and ethnic backgrounds of Puerto Rico. Mostly like our tour guide, the first day she told us about the different locations that Spaniards and, colonizers came in and took over the land. So I was able to understand why my skin color is white and why my parents look white, even though they're from Aguadilla. So that was really cool. And another cool part was when we went to like the Capitol and I learned about the disparity in being able to vote towards laws. There's like kind of the separation right now where they can't get enough votes to pass a bill because they have so many different parties. There's like, I think 5 over here now, so that's kind of interesting.
Muy interesante, muy bien, good job. Come on, let's go. You can't see? I can't. Yeah. I don't. Do you see?
Yeah.
Okay.
Hi.
Hola.
Well, along with what Paul and Noah were saying, the biodiversity here is extremely beautiful, as well as the wildlife. A lot of it is indigenous to Puerto Rico, and it stays here and it never leaves. My favorite so far has been the coqui. It's a kind of like a small frog that's native to the island, and the use of symbolism here is a very large part of their culture. So you'll see specific things like the coqui. Of course, their flag and things like that kind of represented all through the island, which is just a great representation to see. As well as visiting Luisa, where it's the first town in Puerto Rico that African descendants kind of came into and created, and they still have so much culture there, and being able to kind of see geographically how Luisa is separated from the rest of the island and different ways that they had to kind of travel and communicate and come back and forth. That was beyond interesting.
Muy bien, muy bien. Okay, next, let's slide over. Okay, quickly. Okay. Quickly. And then let me put you on deck right here. Okay. Abida. Okay. Thank you. Okay, go.
Hi, so one of the things that I found like really just so breathtaking about Puerto Rico so far was the rainforest that we went to. It is the only tropical rainforest like that belongs to the US, which was really like so amazing to know. But also the amount of biodiversity and the impact that it has on the world as a whole. Like it's one of the world's lungs, like it's so important to the environment and the oxygen rates. Another thing that I found really important was the amount of African representation in Puerto Rico. Like, for example, they completely represent like all the history from the slave trades and like everything and how it was brought to Puerto Rico and how it has developed and grown into something more like beautiful and more able to like express in like a healthy way.
Muy bien, gracias. Abida?
Oh, hola.
Hola.
2 things I learned, was that African merchants brought over cotton, plantains, yam, okra, and beans, which are very profitable and influential to the Puerto Rican economy. It's good. I love good beans. I love good chili. I don't know about y'all. But also, we visited El Yunque, which is originally the home of the Arawaks and Tainos. They saw the land as a playground and a home, while the Spaniards, who came over in the 1500s, they saw it as a gold mine, and they exploited the people, they exploited the environment, and used the people as personal slaves to do their bidding. It was very bad.
Thank you. And we've learned a lot about that. Good job. And finalmente, Shamar Torres. Gracias.
Hello. So things I learned on the trip so far are when we went to the rainforest, like the water's clear and it's like fresh water, not like some other water. And you get to swim with the fishes. The fish, there was a lot of fish there. And the other thing is that the animals are really they're friendly, but like they make the people happy, and there's like animals that you won't see somewhere else that are only in Puerto Rico.
Very good, muy bien. And so at this time, I want to bring everyone back together and say to our superintendente, our wonderful superintendent, and our esteemed board, the wonderful Board of Education, muchas gracias. Muchas gracias por la oportunidad, por nosotros estudiantes aquí. Buenas noches.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Morrell and Board Member McCosey and all of the scholars. I mean, I've learned a lot just hearing from them, you know, and I think what's really great about it is that, you know, it took the students out of their comfort zones. You know, they're someplace new, someplace different. They're trying new things, seeing new things. And I see that the principal is still in you. You're still organizing and
walking away, but I need for them to hear what you're saying.
No, we really, you know, we want this excursion to be exactly what it was designed to be, a learning experience for your students. It is a life-changing experience. They're getting to experience a whole different culture. It's one thing to read about things, it's another thing to watch things on TV, and it's an entirely different thing to go and to, you know, really experience. I heard the young lady talking about those fish and swimming with them. I would be a little scared of doing that, but you know,
jumped right in.
So she's experienced that now.
Thank you.
You guys continue to have a good time.
And Mrs. McCosey has been an awesome chaperone. So thank you to our board member, Mrs. McCosey. She's holding her own weight down here with the kids. So I'm very proud of that as well. Won't take up more time. Thank you all. Thank you for the beautiful work and the opportunity for this. Thank you.
Take lots of pictures. Take lots of pictures.
Lots of pictures.
Absolutely. We have hundreds and hundreds of them. So thank you. And we'll see you.
You guys can always interrupt.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
You guys go have fun. Go have fun.
Oh, goodness. Hold on.
Well, that was a nice treat.
That was phenomenal. That was good.
Amen. Okay, so our babies are in Puerto Rico, educating themselves. Well, this is the Executive Affairs Committee meeting, and today we are going to get an update on two charters that we talked about just about a year ago. Westminster and Enterprise Charter Schools. With that, I'm going to send it over to Dr. Williams. You can introduce Nate Kuzma and Dr. Moss.
Thank you so much, Dr. Evans-Brown, Chairwoman Evans-Brown. We're going to hear this evening from our Chief Legal Counsel, Mr. Kuzma, as well as Dr. Moss, who I believe is a consultant who is working with the two charter schools that are Buffalo-based charter schools. I believe it's Westminster and Enterprise charter schools. And I think we'll hear a little bit from her on some of the, how she has collected some data. And I believe she will be coming back again before the year's end to go a little bit more into detail about the data that she's currently engaged in collecting. So I'll turn things over to Mr. Kuzma to maybe introduce Dr. Moss, and we'll hear from them.
Yes, good evening. Thank you, Dr. Williams. Dr. Moss, is Dr. Moss with us? It's hard to tell.
I am on the phone. I had to call in. I could not access via the webcam, so I'm sorry.
Okay. Well, welcome and thank you, Dr. Moss, for making yourself available. As the board is aware, no, we have two new board members since, but the board authorizes, usually, you know, charter schools are authorized by either the Board of Regents or, you know, another entity from the state education department. But the board actually has two charter schools that it charters, and that is Enterprise Charter School and Westminster Charter School. And the board, you know, a couple of years ago went through a review process, which resulted in some litigation because those two charter schools were recommended to have closed. As a result of the litigation, there was a settlement agreement that was reached with both of the schools. And as part of that settlement agreement, there are, over the next several years, including this year and next year, there are certain measurable goals that each charter school respectively has to meet, primarily in the areas of mathematics and ELA. As part of that settlement agreement, the charter schools had agreed that they would they would provide, and by provide I mean pay for, the services of a Board of Education advisor to in part monitor the charter schools, each of the charter schools' performance in reaching those goals. And last summer, the board approved the appointment and the contracting of Dr. Constance Moss, who has vigorously gotten to work on the ground and working with each of the charter schools. And to this point, she has not had the opportunity to engage with the board. And so tonight, what we've requested that Dr. Moss do is introduce herself, her role in regard to each of these respective charter schools, and her methodology for how she is going about her work. What we have asked Dr. Moss not to do this evening is get into any specific data at this point regarding each of the charter schools' progress towards meeting their measurable goals. I talked to Dr. Moss earlier, as well as some representatives from the charter school and the board president. And, we agreed that the best point to do that, really dive into the data in terms of the performance in meeting the measurable targets, would be at the conclusion of the school year. And so tonight, I've asked Dr. Moss to, introduce herself, her role, and her methodology for how she's going about her work. And I'm pleased and grateful that we have her with us. And so, Dr. Moss, with that, I will turn it over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Kuzma. And again, hello to all, and thank you for this opportunity to be of service in this regard. Again, I am so sorry that I am not able to be on camera with you. Apparently my computer does not support this particular app, and I just found out as I was trying to get on. So let me just go over what I'm going to be providing tonight. I'm going to be giving an overview of my role, and then I'm going to talk, as Mr. Kuzma said, about the methodology being used to assess each school's progress towards meeting the academic measures, and then talk a little bit about the end of the year reporting. As background, and in accordance with the settlement agreement, the Board of Advisors will provide service as a consultant to the Board of Education of the Buffalo City School District. The advisor will liaise between the charter schools and the Buffalo's board and report on the charter school's progress towards meeting renewal conditions. To provide some context about my services, let me give you some background on the process. As the advisor, I have already started to engage in a standardized audit process that will provide findings about each charter school's academic preparedness to meet the renewal conditions. And I will then share those findings in a report at the end of the school year. In an attempt to provide reliability and steps in the process, strive for evidence-based findings, I collect multiple sources of data. And those data are used to discover and substantiate the findings that I include in my reports. That's in addition to the student academic performance results that are part of the academic measures. I go through interviews, I look at documents, and I also observe through school visitations. In essence, the way that we make sure that we can substantiate and corroborate the findings is through what we call triangulations. And that is what will be reflected in the reports that will be coming. To date, all of the Board of Trustee members at Enterprise, which includes 5, and Westminster, which includes 9, have been interviewed. All of the school instructional leaders at Enterprise, which numbers 8, and at Westminster, which numbers 7, have been interviewed. All the teachers, classroom teachers in particular, at Enterprise, which totaled 18, and Westminster, which totaled 35, have been interviewed. School visits have already taken place, but more will be coming, and the document reviews have started. As part of the standardized audit process, I consider various standards that are part of a quality control analysis. Those 5 standards are similar to audits in accounting and include Standard 1, demonstration of system controls, Standard 2, establishment of mission or objectives, Standard 3, documentation, Standard 4, utilization of results, and Standard 5, productivity or outcomes. And all of those align closely with the expectations in regards to the settlement agreements that provides the advisor's authority. In accordance with the Appendix A in the settlement agreement, the advisor's authority includes assessing the learning environment, reviewing the charter schools improvement plans and/or corrective action plans, conducting an intensive review of each charter school system, structures, operations, and facilities, assessing each charter school's capacity to promote and support teaching and learning, advising the board and share with the charter's instructional barriers and critical gaps, assessing and advising the board, the Buffalo City School District Board, of each charter school's progress toward needed improvement to curricular, instructional, and assessment strategies, and share that information also with the charters. As part of the process, the use of student achievement data and other data points from information gathered through, as mentioned before, interviews of various stakeholders, document reviews, and visits to school will result in a report at the end of the year outlining the progress being made to meet the renewal conditions. Just to go over the deliverables, and as part of the renewal conditions, the advisors shall provide the authorizer and charter schools with verbal and written reports regarding each school's individual progress. Of highest priority for the Buffalo Public Schools Board and charter schools is the latter's progress towards meeting the academic measures. In order to satisfy the academic measures for its renewal, each charter school must meet 8 out of the 12 measures. I thought before getting into the measures, without providing a lot of detail, I would just give some definitions in terms of some language that is found associated in the academic measures. For instance, the median is the quantity at midpoint of a frequency distribution of values. Each of these measures involve annual typical growth or stretch growth. When it comes to annual typical growth, that is the average annual growth of students at each grade and grade placement. And it shows where a student is currently performing and estimates the growth to be made based on a calculation of grade and age. It focuses on grade level proficiency. In terms of stretch growth, the growth that's recommended where students should be placed to perform, for students that are performing below grade level and put them on a path to proficiency. For students performing on grade level, it puts them on a path to advanced proficiency. So it's in essence for students that are below grade level, it's helping to help them close the learning gap. It's the amount of growth the student needs to be on path to get to grade level proficiency. So I'm sure you are all aware of the following renewal conditions in the academic measures for Enterprise in Westminster Charter School as the authorizers. Measure 1 and Measure 7 for 2022-2023 will compare Buffalo City School District's results with their kindergarten through 3rd general ed students in reading and in math to the charter school results. Measures 2 and 8 for the 2022-2023 school year will be looking at the median percent progress to annual typical growth for all 3rd through 8th grade students in reading and math by a certain percentage. Measures 3 and 9 for the same 2022-2023 school year, we'll be looking at the median percent progress of annual typical growth for all 3rd through 8th grade students 2 or more years below in reading and in math. And it must be equal to or greater than 100%. Measures 4 and 10 for the 2022-2023 school year must have at least 10% of the charter schools' 3rd through 8th grade students meet their annual stretch growth for reading and math. And lastly, for measures 5 and 11, during the same 2022-2023 school year, the charter schools' median percent progress of annual typical growth for all K through 2nd grade students in reading and math must be equal to or greater than 100. Measures 6 and measures 12 are not included in this because it involves numbers and percentages as of January 2024. The end of the year report will include annual data from 2022-2023 reflecting each school's progress. Thank you. That is the end of my report. Any questions?
Do we have any questions? Thank you, Dr. Moss, for such
You're welcome.
Presentation. There is a question for you from Board President Sharon Delton-Cotman. Sharon, you're up.
Well, thank you, Dr. Moss. Certainly we can rest assured that you have a handle on this. It's not your first time at the rodeo, so we know that you know what you're doing. I would like to know if you have been received positively by these two institutions, and if there are anything, or if there's anything that we as a board need to do or instruct staff to do to assist you in what you're doing. It's very important because parents have the right for free choice of schools, and we want to make sure that all I's are dotted and our T's are crossed. So at this point, is there anything that we can do, and how have you been received, are the two questions.
Well, I appreciate, the offer. I have been provided with significant support. Mr. Kuzna, Bethany, I forget her last name. She is also a special counsel out of Albany, have been very helpful and very responsive for the most part when I have had to reach out for support and for follow-up with the charter schools. Oftentimes I have found that the charter schools lawyers have gotten involved, and to a certain extent, the beginning of the provision of service by my company was somewhat delayed because there was back and forth in terms of negotiations about language in the professional services agreement, and then also additional pieces regarding expectations for us, a work plan every 6 months. But we've negotiated, we've been able to come to an understanding, and even though I was hopeful to be able to start the work in October of 2022, I actually really did not get totally involved and immersed in the schools until January of 2023.
Wow.
But since then, we have been moving along. The cooperation level is there, and we're proceeding in good faith that it will continue.
Okay, thank you. So I heard you referenced in your opening introduction that you are comparing these two schools to our schools, our entire school district. I understand that's the scope that's required, but is that a normal practice when you are only dealing with two schools that you would compare to an entire school district, or have you encountered this before, or this is just based on how it was written?
From my experience, I'll just answer that this is based on how the settlement agreement was written.
Okay, because that's
yes,
a concern for me.
Yes, we are looking at the entire district. There are 26 schools that are within the Buffalo City School District listed in the settlement agreement. And all of those schools' data is required to be taken together, and that's exactly how Measure 1 is written, and then compared to each of the charter schools.
Okay, so Nate, I don't know why that was done, but I'm not pleased with that. It's over. It's water under the dam at this point, or over the bridge, however you want. I don't know what it is, but whatever it is, it does not give us a clear picture, because I would have preferred that agreement had been written where we had like for like. So if we are dealing with a school of a certain size with certain percentages of L's, a certain percentages of special ed, because it does not give us a real clear picture. There's no reflection on you, Dr. Moss, but I'm saying this because I feel this is an opportunity for us to learn. But I would like personally, as a board member, to see our district do a similar report using like schools, same size schools with the same demographics, so that we can see how we compete. How dare you come up with a measurement that takes into consideration the entire district? I know you're legally doing this or whatever, but at the end of the day, it does not reflect what we need to see. We need to see if apples for apples, oranges for oranges, not apples, oranges, and grapes. Okay, so that's my concern, and that's something that I would like maybe Dr. Williams, that your staff does, because in fairness, how does the board assess 2 schools to an entire district? It does not make sense, okay? And so maybe for whatever reason it was done, I don't know, but I feel that we deserve as a board a snapshot of what apples look like, what oranges look like, versus what a fruit bowl looks like, okay? So that's my concern with that. That's all. It's no reflection on you, Dr. Moss, but I just felt the need to express that because how else do you come up with a true picture, okay, of what's going on in a charter school that was slated to close because of lack of performance, if you're trying to compare it to 26 schools in a district that certainly has more population, less population, more L's, more special eds, etc. So that's my concern with that. So personally, I would like to see a report drawn so that we can put it out there for what it is. Okay.
Well, and I think what this looks at more than anything is growth. It's not necessarily a comparison of the 2 charter schools with all of the district schools. It's bringing them, and there are certain percentages, and I can send the board the agreement for its own, but it's about significant and meaningful growth from where they were.
And I appreciate that.
Okay.
I appreciate that, but you're missing my point. Okay. You're missing my point. I need to know if similar schools in our district are growing accordingly. I need apples with apples, oranges with oranges. Right now, to take 26 schools with all our different needs, with our L population, with our special ed population, and compare it to schools that don't even meet those percentages or whatever, it just doesn't give the board an idea as to, or even our parents an idea as to if we're comparing apples with apples. That's all I'm getting at. So I understand that this is about growth. The whole process is about growth. What I'm concerned about is Buffalo Public Schools doing growth too? That's what I'm boiling this down to. Okay.
I appreciate the comments, and I remember a few years ago when this had occurred, it seemed like Westminster and Enterprise weren't even meeting the expectations of our Buffalo Public Schools, and that's, as a board, we were concerned about it, and we put it out there that we weren't going to renew them because of that. They were not making any strides compared to some of our 26 schools, and that brought up the alarm. And I can't recall verbatim because I don't have the information in front of me.
But do you feel, Dr. Evans, that does provide you with would provide us with at least a better picture of what's going on? Because to look at the entire district against 2 schools doesn't get it for me. It just doesn't.
Yeah, and I don't remember how many schools we looked at the time. So, yeah, but you're absolutely right because they're so smaller. We have 400 kids, maybe 800 kids totally for both schools.
If I might, this is Dr. Moss. For Enterprise, the total student population currently is 355. And they have 51 students with IEPs, and they have 18 English language learners. For Westminster, their total student population currently is 453. And they have 32 students with individual education plans, IEPs, and they have 53 English language learners. So, you know, their data has fluctuated, you know, from a couple of years ago. They're building back their student enrollment, and so those are the most up-to-date numbers in terms of the student population at each school.
Thank
Dr.
you for
Moss,
sharing.
can you share with us again for Enterprise, what the number of ELL students is?
18.
18, okay.
And
So
for
Dr.
Westminster, 53. They have a large Bangladesh population that has moved into the neighborhood there. And so that can contribute to that number, but they have 53 English language learners.
Okay.
Dr. Moss.
Okay, go ahead.
I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to say, Dr. Williams, do you understand what I was saying?
I do.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure. Okay, Larry, I'm sorry to cut you
No,
off.
that's okay. Dr. Moss, board member Scott, can you repeat the enrollment numbers and the special ed and English language learner student numbers?
My pleasure. For Enterprise, the total student population is 355. For Enterprise, their students with IEPs is 51, and their English language learners total 18 students. At Westminster, pardon me, the total student population is 453, and their special ed students total 32, and ELL totals 53.
I would just for a moment, if Ebony is on the line, in regards to this topic. Ebony, do you have any clarifications you'd like to share?
So, Mr. Cooper, it's my intention to reach out to Chief Bullock and to sit down with her, because I think even when we look at it, we have to look at, so students with IEPs, what kind of IEPs, you know, is it for students who are classified as autistic? Is it for students who are classified needing, you know, high level support 611 or 1211? So I think we're going to have to go into it a little deeper. So I'll be reaching out to Chief Bullock to, you know, peel some layers on this, and we may need to reach out to Dr. Moss just so we can sit down together.
Well, yeah, and to President Belton Cottman's point, if my math is right, Enterprise has 14% students with disabilities.
Yeah.
Westminster has 7% students with disabilities.
Yeah.
That's far lower than our percentage district-wide. I think we're 25%. I mean, so President Belton Cottman is absolutely right that you're comparing apples and oranges.
And I do also want to add my compliments to the Chief Accountability Office support. They have provided me with the progress towards meeting the academic measures for Buffalo Public Schools, and they're very, very helpful. Working along with the iReady folks, you know, we have been able to collect some good preliminary data. Of course, it's not the annual data. That won't be until the end of the school year, but everybody is being very supportive.
Dr. Moss, may I also ask, with respect to the IEPs, are those students that may need only speech?
Yeah, that would cover the gamut. That would include all of the students. Not so sure. I really have to do a little bit more intensive visitation at Westminster in regards to 611 or 211 or those more intensive types of programming. I know that they have the special ed teachers within the classroom. There's significant co-teaching. But, you know, like I said, since starting in January, we've collected a lot of information, not only the student information in regards to the academic measures, but also from the document reviews and the interviews. And so we're well on our way, but there's still a lot of work to be done.
Thank you, Dr. Moss, for all your work. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. My pleasure.
Any other questions before we, okay, Terrence Hurd, he has a question, Dr. Moss, before you leave.
Thank you, Chairwoman Ms. Brown. And my question was surrounding about the supports, because I know the Buffalo School Board offers support to Enterprise and Westminster charters as they try to reinvent their program and enhance it. And we wanted to make sure that they were successful in their efforts as a district. You know, these are all our kids, and we want to make sure that our kids get the best opportunity no matter where they're located at or where they go. So are there any other extra supports, anything that the district has given to these two charter programs?
Well, in terms of special education, from my interviews with the school leaders and also the document reviews that I've conducted, you know, it is apparent that there are structures in place. How efficient and how effective they're utilized will be part of my report, but there are systems in place for referrals from the schools, for means by which students that have disabilities or that are English language learners can get exposed to the schools, get informed about the schools. There is significant outreach, but both schools have been successful in reaching out to Buffalo Public Schools and getting the extra support that they need for the students that have demonstrated that they need that extra intervention. And so, you know, I think there is that cooperation, that level of cooperation intentionally.
Okay, it was more supports than just their ELL students and their students with IEPs. It was overall their performance, and I was concerned about that also for the overall performance, and if there are any supports that this district has given to those educational programs to help advance that also, so they can be within state mandates.
Right. As I said, there have been some starts and stops in terms of my service at both of the schools. So when I get to do more intensive visitations, I can find out about additional supports that the schools have availed themselves from Buffalo Public Schools and be able to report back on that.
Dr. Moss, we really appreciate you, considering you just started.
Thank you again.
I'm sorry, another hand is up, Madam Chair, Board Member Schuster.
Yes, I have a question. Hello, Dr. Moss. I'm wondering, when is this agreement, since I'm new, when is the agreement, what was the timeline for the agreement? The progress had to be made by what point?
Okay. For 10 of the academic measures, and as I mentioned before, each school is being held accountable to meet 8 of the 12 measures. For the 10 measures, they have to meet the expectations as outlined in the settlement agreement by the end of the school year of 2023. For actually 2 additional academic measures, and those are measures 6 and 12. In January of 2024, there must be a demonstration of improvement between the fall 2023 and the winter 2024 diagnostic assessment. And that assessment is the iReady assessment. So they have until January of 2024 to demonstrate progress in 8 out of the 12 academic measures. I hope I answered the question.
Yes. And how many schools did we say that they were compared to? Did we say 26?
Correct. 26 within the Buffalo City School District.
I don't believe 26 would be all of them, right? We have some others.
Like I said, I'm coming into this process and not aware of how the 26 were selected. Maybe Mr. Kuzma can offer some insight in that regard, but I'm sure you're right. It is not all of the elementary schools.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
It's not, and I was going to ask, I think Chief Bullock was attempting to get on to clarify as to what schools were utilized. I think she's unable to speak at this point, but we can send that clarification out.
Okay. I have that information if you want me to review it quickly. I have the list of Buffalo schools.
That would be, if you could, that would be helpful.
Okay. I'm going to go by name and not number. Deweyville Porter Campus School, Buffalo Elementary School of Technology, Dr. Antonia Pantoja, Community School of Excellence, Native American Magnet School, Hillary Park Elementary, Frank A. Sedita Academy, Harriet Ross Tubman School, Bennett Park Montessori, Bilingual Center, Marva J. Daniels Future Preparatory School, Lovejoy Discovery School, International School, Community School, Dr. Charles R. Drew Science, Houghton Academy, Lorraine Elementary, Cameron Park, Herman Badeo Bilingual Academy, William Grabiard School of Excellence, Highgate Heights, Dr. Lydia T. Wright School of Excellence, Harvey Austin School, Build Community School, Southside Elementary, West Turtle Academy, and Waterfront Elementary. Those make up the 26 schools.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I have one more question, Madam Chair.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so throughout this report, is it the, how do I put this tactfully? Does the report reflect the amount of children who have been removed from the schools that were originally involved in the data collection? Meaning the kids who have been, let's just say what it is, kicked out of the buildings. Does it monitor that at all? Because I can easily see children being removed from, or we see it on a regular basis, I should say, children being removed and sent to Buffalo Public Schools for failure of academics. Does this report take, Sherry's shaking her head, take into consideration any of this?
Well, I can speak to one aspect of the report where we were looking at school participation in the iReady assessment, because that is part of the settlement agreement that schools will achieve at least 90% student participation in the reading and in the math iReady assessment. And so I had to have a conversation in regards to one school that had a significant change in student enrollment between the math and the reading administration in the winter. And I was tracking the data, and I found that of the 7 students, 4 went to charter school for applied technology, and 3 went back to schools within the Buffalo City School District. So in essence, to a limited extent, yes, you know, the data is there, especially when we're looking at participation within the iReady assessment. That is the major anchor in terms of assessment that is referenced in the settlement agreement.
Okay, so Nate or Dr. William, whoever. So from our perspective as a district, I would assume that we are looking at the children who we are getting back from these schools to assess them to see what's going on with that. That's something I think that another layer that needs to be added in from our registration department. Any children that we are getting back from these two schools, that we are monitoring what is being returned, whom or what is being, what's the student status of the students that's being returned. And I mean, that should be academically as well. I think we have an opportunity here to work with that. So I'll be following back up on that, not with you, Dr. Moss, because it's not under your purview, but it certainly is ours, because we know how the game is being played in this district with the creaming of the crop with charter schools. I'm not saying that's happening here, but we know that it has happened. So I would appreciate, Dr. Williams, if you would make sure that that piece, that we are monitoring that from our perspective, in fairness to the report, considering our entire school district is being evaluated against two schools. That's a bit much for me. All right, thank you so much, Dr. Ross.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Do we have any other questions for Dr. Moss at this time? If not, Dr. Moss, we appreciate you, considering you just started officially in January 2023. You've done an extensive piece of work, including your interviews with the number of people that you had indicated. And we certainly look forward to your final analysis come fall of this year.
Okay. Well, it's my pleasure. Thank you so much. And I do, again, apologize for not being able to be on camera.
So can we bring her back? Can we bring her back next month after she's had a chance to review this data with the charter schools for a additional brief update on what's going on? I think that it's prudent that, since we are the entities responsible, as the commissioner was clear to tell us in that interview, that we monitor this, and that we should have an idea of what direction is going in. They're going in to make sure that we're doing our due diligence, Mr. Kuzma. That's
Yes,
my
ma'am.
recommendation.
Yes, Board President.
Can I just say one thing?
Yes.
We all know and are concerned that any school can get a 100% graduation rate if they send all their failing students back to Buffalo Public Schools. That's been a significant problem. And personally, to compare any school to Herman Belladillo, which has all the English language learners and all kind of challenges, and say, oh, I'm doing good because I'm doing a little bit better than Herman Belladillo. I mean, that's ludicrous to me. So I'm just concerned that the evaluation needs to be more in depth than that and more accurate. And the other question or problem that was brought to our attention was a lack of control of the student body. The students were running the facility and the teachers were younger and needed some help. So I'm hoping that we can look at these things and maybe help facilitate some training and development for the teachers so that there's more control at the schools. Those were the three concerns that why State Ed was kind of forcing our hand that these schools needed to close and we needed to give them more oversight. So that's my 2 cents.
Thank you, Board Member Woods. And on that note,
We can't hear you, Dr. Evans. You went in and out.
Is that better?
Yes.
Okay, so I was thinking about this question also, Dr. Williams. I don't know, do we have a way of tracking return students from these two charters? Since we decided to close these schools. Is there any way that we can track? Yeah, I think that would probably behoove us to do that as well. In addition to these three that returned in December, I'm sure there's more, and we need to find out who they are.
We can do that.
Okay, good. So any other questions for Dr. Moss? We will
Well,
go ahead.
If I may, I just want to add that we'll have the final data by the midpoint of June. Enterprises window for the end of the year iReady assessment is between May 15th and the 9th. Westminster's window is between May the 30th and June the 2nd. And Buffalo Public Schools window for administering the reading and the math is for end of year. It's between May the 22nd and June the 16th. Thereafter, data should be available through iReady so that we can then see what the progress has been in terms of those academic measures that, we were talking about tonight. And that would provide the opportunity to give you a really good picture of the progress that the school is making towards meeting what's in the settlement agreement. So I just wanted to put that out there.
So when would you be able to present it? We wouldn't have to wait until the fall. We can have it done before that, is what I'm hearing.
Well, the assessment window, if you go furthest out, June the 16th of 2023 is the end of one of the assessment windows. And then after that, it takes a little bit of time for the data to be processed by iReady, like for instance. But we could provide a more comprehensive and thorough report in terms of the progress being made by the two schools and in comparison to the 26 schools within the Buffalo City School District. And that could also be aligned with an effort to pick out like schools and see where, the results are. But at least we'd have some good, sufficient data to kind of start up for September, going into September of 2023, leading into 2024.
So you will let us know when that report is you're ready to present, right?
Yeah, it can be, yes, for sure. It takes a little bit of time for iReady to put the numbers for all the 26 schools together to come up with that medium percent progress towards annual typical growth. But we can certainly do that before September, I would think.
Great.
Thank you. I think one thing that just came to mind, board members, and while Dr. Moss, this may not include you, but I think part of what we should be assessing with our goals that we need to tie into the responsibility of these two charter schools. Doesn't impress me that they have attorneys that like to exercise their might. What I'm concerned about is that one of our goals is not that we are monitoring two schools that we are responsible for. And I think that, I don't know to what degree we would write a goal for that, Nate or Dr. Williams, but I think we would be remiss if we don't put something down in writing in regards to that, particularly after what the commissioner said to us about these two schools. All right, I appreciate you guys. Thank you so much. I thank you for that, Dr. Moss.
Okay. Dr. Williams, did you want to close out this executive affairs?
Thank you so much, Dr. Moss. It sounds just like Dr. Evans Brown said, you really hit the ground running and did a lot in a very short period of time. So just appreciation and thanks for the work that you're doing.
Oh, you're most welcome. Thank you for the opportunity. I mean that.
Thank you. We look forward to the next report. So with that, that will close out the Executive Affairs Committee meeting, and next on the agenda is Terry Shuda, board member.
Good night, everyone. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Good night. Thank you.
Today for educational support, we are going to have an update of the security and safety planning from Chief Barbara Lark, and I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Williams.
Thank you, Chairwoman Shuda. So our Chief of Buffalo Public Schools Security is 5 months into her tenure. So she's been with us for 5 months, and I think you're going to hear quite a bit about some of the things that she's managed to accomplish during those 5 months and where we're going next. Also, Executive Director Wagstaff, I can see him on camera, which is her right hand, works very closely with her. And, they do a very good job. We have 60 schools. We have several central office sites. We've got 31,000 children who are busy. And so they work really hard every day. That's one of our major goals. And, we shared that right from the start to keep everybody safe on all of our school campuses and in all of our centralized locations. Doesn't matter when they leave their house to come to school, they're on the buses, they're on the trains, we want them safe. They go to the library after school, we want them safe. And so, we really are trying to do everything that we can to make sure that all of our students and all of our staff are safe every single day. And, certainly, you have, the two people who I just mentioned who kind of lead the charge, but if there are family members and community members that are watching, I, certainly want to just say that it will take everybody, parents, our community members, everybody to keep everybody safe. That's what we want. So I'm going to turn things over to Chief Lark, and you can get started.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. Chairperson or Chairwoman Shuda, Board President Belton Cotton, all of the board members, and Superintendent Williams, thank you for having me this evening. And I'm going to thank my Executive Director before I even get started, Executive Director Wagstaff, for all the work that he does to help me out on a daily basis and to lead our security division. What I hope to accomplish this evening is to talk about how the safety and security plans tie in with the superintendent's strategic plan. The goals and the achievements that we have from the security division, the plans that we have for the spring, the remainder of the school year and summer 2023, and recommendations that I've made to the superintendent, and we'll close out with transportation. Okay, so I'll get started. BPS Safety and Security Plan aligns with goal number 3 of the superintendent's strategic plan. It prioritizes safety.
Chief Lark, yes. I'm sorry. You'll have to say to Admir to please advance the slide, or he'll stay on the same slide.
Okay, Admir, can I have the next slide, please? Yes. So the BPS's Safety and Security Plan aligns with goal number 3 of the superintendent's strategic plan, prioritizing safety, security, and wellness. Safety and security is a priority for the superintendent, myself, and the entire security team. We continue to collaborate with partners such as the Buffalo Police Department, NFTA, Peacemakers, and the DA's office, just to name a few, to provide safety and security to students, visitors, and staff while they're in BPS buildings. The Security Division also collaborates with Chief Balicelli and her staff, Dr. Caresses and his staff, Dr. Reynolds, who's Chief of Athletics, Community Schools and Family Community Engagement, as well as Dr. Brown, who's Chief of Student Support Services, regarding the recommendations for home instruction when security is a safety issue for the involved student or safety for any of the other students in schools. As we know, safety and security and wellness go hand in hand. Can you advance the next slide, please? Security personnel, we currently have 90 security officers. 82 security officers are assigned to high school, 2 supervisors of security. 4 of those security officers are assigned to the mobile units who patrol the elementary schools. We have an executive director, WAC staff, myself, and an administrative assistant. We're in the process of hiring an additional 7 security officers who are currently being processed through civil service. And we anticipate hiring another 30 security officers in the 2023-2024 school year. And you advance the next slide, please. This is a brief summary of goals that I've set since I've become Chief of Security. While I have the pleasure of holding the title of Chief of Security, as the superintendent mentioned, I don't bear this responsibility by myself. It does take everyone in the city of Buffalo who's committed to safety and security as I am to help us achieve this goal, to embrace this endeavor. We have 31,000 plus students, visitors, and staff in school buildings on a daily basis. We also have the responsibility of keeping students safe in after-school programs, sporting events, community day events on Saturdays, and as they travel to and from school and leave school. So, you know, it's a tremendous responsibility. I have a dedicated executive director, WAC staff, who supervises the supervisors as well as our 80 plus security officers. That's a huge undertaking as well. And since my 5-month tenure as Chief of Security, I've worked to prioritize and implement security systems that enhance our current policies and procedures in the Buffalo Public School System. And there are various other safety measures and systems that I plan to put in place. I really can't go into a lot of details now, but as we roll out those initiatives, and I'll be happy to talk about them. In your next slide, please. I currently attend principals meetings so that I can be kept up to speed as to what's going on in the buildings and hear firsthand from the principals what their concerns are. And I also can take that as an opportunity to update them on any security measures that we have in place. And any message that I like to get out, that's the perfect time to do that. Going forward, I plan to attend the Parent Congress meetings. I am also going to be working in the very near future with Dr. Reynolds to put together a literature page for parent conduct that we'll be distributing at a couple of upcoming events. May 30th is a parent award ceremony at Bennett High School, and on June 3rd is a parent engagement program that's going to take place at all high. So we felt that that would be a perfect time to distribute the parent conduct flyer. We want to try to get buy-in from the parents to help keep our children safe. We're also going to be demonstrating the Evolve scanner at that time. So some of the parents who may be there that students who are new to it or just even high school students, they'll have an opportunity to see firsthand how it works. Next slide, Amir, please. Training is very important. It's an important aspect of any profession. And I really take it seriously. So what I tried to do was implement as much training as possible. I'll just tell you a little bit about what the security officers have done and some of the things that we have planned to coming up. I'm currently working with Chief Botticelli to schedule most school staff with emergency response training in light of the increased targeted school shootings. Security officers have received Incident Command 100 training in February. That training informs the security officers of the system that's in place. If there's ever a really emergency response, Buffalo Police Department comes in and takes over, and they'll understand the system so that they'll know who reports to who and why things are just being handled the way that they are within a chaotic emergency situation. Security officers also receive CPR, hands-on only, and the AED training. They also receive Stop the Bleed training in February. They're going to receive in the near future the National Incident Command Systems, which goes hand in hand with the Incident Command System training. Security officers also just recently received 8 hours of mandatory New York State security officer training. That's done on an annual basis. And before the end of this month, they will receive 16 hours of defensive tactics and de-escalation training. Between the end of the school calendar year and summer school, security officers will also receive an additional 24 hours of training in various subject matters. Next slide, Edmure. Additional security systems that we have in place for strategies is that the superintendent meets regularly with the Buffalo Police Commissioner on a monthly basis to discuss and monitor safety needs in the Buffalo Public Schools. In addition, she meets with the mayor monthly. BPS security, school administrators, Buffalo Police Department, and peacemakers share intel regarding safety concerns that arise throughout the day. That allows us to reassign security officers or bring additional resources into a location where we feel that there's going to be a potential problem as a deterrent. BPS security will continue to receive the assistance of Buffalo Police, NFTA, in order to monitor and patrol off-site locations where students frequently congregate with the intent to cause disturbances within the community. BPS security just recently implemented an electronic daily activity report that allows us the ability to sort reports by incident and by school. Now, this allows us to see any particular patterns that a school may have, and we can adjust our manpower accordingly. Next slide, Edmure, please. I'm going to give you an update on the Evolve scanner. Scanners are installed and operational in 17 high schools, 1 middle school, and central registration. We plan to train and go live at the remaining 2 middle schools, which is City Honors and Olmsted, within the next couple of weeks. And we will implement a pilot program for 1 elementary school, and that's Southside. Southside was selected because of the high number of students that they have there that bus and walk. And that'll give us a really good indication of how to move forward with the remaining elementary schools. And once we also, I believe, have another 2 schools that want to pilot in elementary schools as well. So once we finish collecting data and can assess how these 3 elementary schools are operating with the Evolve system, we'll roll out the remaining elementary schools. Next slide, Edmure. Wanted to talk about our plans for spring, which is what we're in right now, which will take us through the remainder of the school year. As students arrive, they're going to continue to be scanned at the high school level. We'll be moving into middle schools as well. BPS security will continue conducting the secondary screening of backpacks. They'll wand students when they prompt the alert. We currently have our Evolve scanners set on F, which is the highest sensitivity setting that can be utilized. That's universal throughout all of the schools. And the only way that setting can be changed is if I give the go-ahead to change it or to reduce it to a lower setting, and we have chosen not to do that at this time. We want to we won't change the setting throughout the end of the school year. We'll probably revisit it early next year, but right now, to get us through the end of the school year, we want to keep the students on their toes, and we want to ensure safety, do whatever we can to ensure safety. So that's why it's going to remain F throughout the end of the school year. Security officers, once the students are done with the scanning process, they then do their perimeter searches and they do locker searches, and that takes place throughout the entire day. Next slide, Admir. As I stated, we work in conjunction on a daily basis with Buffalo Police Department, NFTA, and Peacemakers to ensure safe passage. Now, we've had some concerns with Fountain Plaza at dismissal. So what we've done is put some things in place. We currently have Peacemakers there. We'll send additional security officers to Fountain Plaza. Director of Security and supervisors are there. BPD has a BPD has a detail car that's outside at Fountain Plaza. NFTA has several school resource officers as well at Fountain Plaza. Another initiative that we've implemented that also helps move the students along is to have an administrator from the 3 downtown high schools. They also walk up to Fountain Plaza. And the reason why we're doing this is because they can identify their students and have a little bit more teeth in it when they tell the students to move along, get on the train, and so forth. If the students do refuse, the administrators can then impose any type of, whether it be a conference or whatever they feel is necessary because the students were not compliant. But the students tend to comply with the administrators, so that's just another tool that we're using to help move the students along and ensure their safety. The school and district administrators have also begun to meet regularly with charter schools, BPD, and NFTA in order to share information regarding the school calendars, dismissal, summer school, and any intel that any of the schools have gathered throughout the day, or on a weekly basis, we're sharing this information. We've just implemented something today that will allow us to share information real time so that we can actually be more proactive instead of reactive to anything that may come up. We're also going to include the Erie County Sheriffs in these meetings. Next slide, Admir, please. The cabinet members and ASL Murray and myself, we met with some Central Library's executive director to discuss some proactive initiatives to engage the students in activities within the library after school hours. The library is very interested in being a resource for students to be utilized so that they feel that they've been kicked out of other organizations and other areas, and they really want to be a support for the students. So we're going to team up with them and see what we can do. And Peacemakers are also going to be very instrumental in this whole process. They'll be working with the library as well. So we've gotten some information that some of our students may be skipping out on classes. We have our security supervisors going through going through the library on a daily basis, or at least a few times a week to see if any of our students are there. We also have our security supervisor and security officers there at dismissal. Just keep an eye on our students. they know the students, and that way we can report back to principals if we've seen any activity from our students that's not favorable. As we receive intel on new locations to be monitored, we're flexible and we make sure that we have adequate staff in there. And just recently, we've seen an uptick in activity from students over at East High School. Some of the students are meeting up at MLK Park. And so we've notified C District, and they've sent additional patrols over to the park as a deterrent. Amir, next slide, please. The middle and elementary schools, we have 4 BPS security officers rotating throughout the elementary schools. They patrol inside, interior, and exterior of the school. They also assist in conflict resolution with the students. We're also working with the Assistant District Attorney, Danielle Diabati, to present cyberbullying presentations to the students in order to reduce the number of threats that we're seeing in schools. Myself and Executive Director Wagstaff are participating in career fairs at PS 43, 37, 74, and 97, where we not only talk about careers in law enforcement and security, we also are taking that as an opportunity to talk to the students about bullying, cyberbullying, and threatening each other. We have to seize every opportunity that we can to get our message across. Next slide, Admir. Security team, they provide security for sporting events. Right now, for spring, we have track and field, football, usually in the fall, swimming, basketball, volleyball, and lacrosse. We also provide security for proms, graduation, school parties, theater events, and any other type of community event. We have community school days on Saturdays. We are partnering with Dr. Reynolds in parent engagement to provide, like I spoke about earlier, literature on parent conduct. That literature will be distributed at the couple of upcoming events in May and June. Next slide, Admir. Summer school. Here are the plans for summer school. We all have summer school at elementary, middle, and high schools from July 6th through August 15th, from 8 in the morning to 3:30 p.m. Buffalo Police Security will provide security at all of the schools that I just mentioned. We have 9 high schools and 14 middle and elementary schools that will have summer school this summer. We'll only have 1 downtown high school that will host summer school this summer, which will give the businesses a break and should give everybody downtown a break. I'm sure they can appreciate that. Next slide, Admir. Dr. Wagstaff, you want to talk about freshman orientation since that's your baby.
I'm sorry. Oh. Good evening, everyone. How you doing? Mostly everyone know who I am. Fred Wagstaff, Executive Director of Safety and Security, Buffalo Public Schools. One of the big events in the summertime that Buffalo Public Schools Security Department, along with Buffalo Police Department, SROs, as well as NFTA, have participated in is the freshman orientation. We feel that it's very important that we talk to the students freshman year before they even start school on a number of topics. One is safety and security. One is transportation, getting back and forth to school. Also, and from Buffalo Police Department, the SROs, letting them meet the police department, police officers, and allowing them to understand that they are their friends. They are there for the students as well, in school as well as out in the community. And that's a great time. It's been very successful I would say over the last 5 years. It's been very successful. I even see some kids throughout their high school careers, and they remember the message that we have given them during these freshman orientation. Is very well received by the students and the staff and the administrators. So it's very important that we continue with that. Some of the topics that we talk about is the entry and dismissal, arrival times and dismissal, bus conduct, the code of conduct, which is very important. Buffalo Public Schools pupil personnel, or Dr. Sharon Brown's office, does a great job with the code of conduct, and it's explained to the students and the parents, and it's also a great time to meet the parents for all of those entities that I stated earlier, such as NFTA, Buffalo Police Department, the school resource officers. One of the biggest items that I've been saying, or the phrases that I've been saying to the students in the high schools at the freshman orientation, you see something, say something. I refer back to myself being friends with, still in my late ages, with people that I met my freshman year. My best friend is from my freshman year of high school, and that's some years ago. And we tell all the kids, you will one day have friends for this long, but how do you maintain being friends for that long? If you see them about to do something that they shouldn't do that's going to get them in trouble, see something, say something to them. We have formulated what I call the DDI. Don't do it. Walk up to your friend, tell your friend, don't do it. Then there's a 50% chance that they won't do it. That's better than 100%. So we ask the students to help each other out. These are times we've never seen before in our lives, let alone the student lives. So we got to give them resources. We try to give them tools and resources to succeed. And I think we're doing a great job. Like I said, the school resource officers are a big help. They see the school resource officers coming in, smiling. They see the security department, the security officers smiling all the time, and the administrators doing a fabulous job. Also, it's very important that we always point out where they have help at in the school. Buffalo Public Schools, every school, we have our school support teams. That's the guidance counselor, the psychologist, the social worker, and they're all, as well as the security officers. And we're all headed by the school administrator. But what we also tell the kids, we can't help you if we don't know. You got to talk to us. So that's very important. So the freshman orientation, which is we have tremendous success with. I look forward to it, as well as, just like we tell the kids, hopefully the next time you see me won't be until 4 years from now at your graduation. I want to thank you very much.
Thanks, Director Wagstaff, for that detailed report on freshman orientation. One of the next slide, Admir, please. I made several recommendations to the superintendent, and one was on visitors policy. And that's to revise the visitors policy to state that parents need to have a confirmed appointment with the principal prior to coming to school, and that's due to the increased inappropriate adult behavior. The revised visitor policy will be in effect from April until the end of the school year and will be reassessed in September or October of 2023 to see if we'll continue with this policy or not. The visitor policy will also need to be shared within the district and all families to ensure compliance. All visitors as well as students are required to be scanned prior to entering the buildings and will be escorted from the door to the office by security officers. BPS security will work with Dr. Reynolds and the officer. I said that already, so I'm not going to repeat that about the parent conduct. And as I stated, I'm going to start attending the parent congress meetings. That's going to give me an opportunity to get to know some of the parents, to share any information, any strategies that we may have that we feel will be useful, that parents could assist us in getting messages out to their students, to their children. Anything that helps us all be on the same page is certainly recommended. Next slide, Admir, please. I'm also reviewing how I can maximize meeting our strategic goals through reorganizing the security department. We're going to continue training. There's a training, as I mentioned before, on emergency response that I'm working with Chief Botticelli's office with on early release day, which is coming up on the 26th of April. Going to continue the monthly dialogues with the principals so I can stay abreast on with their needs, and reorganize the staff this summer. Next slide, Admir, please. There's just a few updates on policies and procedures. Now, MST will implement, well, now we're back from spring recess. They are in the process of implementing a signage that's going to be posted at the schools that says, do not hold the door open for anyone, including staff you may know. So we want to have that signage created and posted up at all of the schools just as another safety and security measure. I'm also in the process of revising the no weapons policy for the Buffalo Public Schools. Signage has already been ordered and some of them have begun to come in and they'll be posted at the schools as well. We plan to update some of our school buildings, and I've spoken to Chief Operating Officer David Hills, and some of these projects can be completed by our tradesmen, but some will have to be contracted out. And in order to pay for these, it'll be a multi-year rollout to upgrade some of our security at our buildings. Last slide, please, Admir. Transportation. As you know, we had some issues with transportation. We really want to be able to move the students from whether it's Fountain Plaza or wherever, which is where we have the highest number of congregation. So Chief Operating Officer David Hills and the Superintendent will be meeting with the Executive Director of NFTA regarding the number of specials that we have scheduled at dismissal. And that will conclude my presentation. Are there any questions?
Does anybody have a question? President Sharon Beltman-Cottman?
Yeah, I do. I have a couple of questions, but I may be a little premature because of the amount of time that our chief has been there. I want to thank you both for providing us with an update. I had a couple of questions, particularly in regards to parent involvement. I saw we talked a lot about we were going to do staff training and things like that. I didn't see much on parent training, it's particularly with the orientation at the beginning of the year. I'm wondering if we would not miss an opportunity if we don't work with the parents during that time. I have a question to top it off. First question is the security officers, their roles outside of the building. To what extent are they allowed to assist outside of the building? I've heard people say that they only go to the boundaries of the school. Is that correct?
Well, that just recently came up. And we have informed the security officers that they are allowed to, and I'll use South Park as an example, they can leave the school and go down to where the students are congregating at the McDonald's. So they are allowed to, they're covered, and if they extend past their end of the work shift, they're paid overtime. So yes, they are allowed to leave. They also leave the downtown area and walk up to Fountain Plaza, and that's off of school grounds as well.
Okay, thank you. Are we, do we have a plan to utilize them in that aspect? Does the principal have the ability to order them to do that, or how does the contract read is what I'm questioning at this point.
I'm not sure specifically what the contract says. I just did consult with legal to make sure that it was okay for them to work off school grounds, and was told that, yes, it is okay. And I know that the downtown schools have been engaging security, and they have been up at Fountain Plaza almost on a daily basis.
Okay, good. I'm glad to hear that. That's encouraging. The passes. I'm thinking of, is there an opportunity to allow students who may be interested in acting as ambassadors or who want to assist with keeping their schools safe, that they could get credits maybe for some of their community credits in high school for participating in something? I'm thinking of maybe, I don't know, that they would act as ambassadors or security ambassadors or something. And as a result, they could earn some community credit hours or whatever. You know, we did it when we were at East. We had, but we didn't get credit community credit hours, but we had people who were ambassadors. My other thing that came up is that I feel that there's a need to have in every school, if we don't already, a box, an anonymous box where children can put concerns, you know, or hot items or whatever in it, and so that they don't feel like they're snitching, or no one can call them a snitch, but they can give you some heads up on some stuff with that. I like your initiatives about working with the younger children, but I'd like to know if is there any conversation about expanding East High School's involvement? One of the things that happened, Chief, at your retirement party is that those guys were real clear to state that they wanted to be actively involved with East High School and working with those kids. And so we may be missing an opportunity, particularly since that's our civil service school. We may be missing an opportunity not to get East High School students involved. I was even thinking about our ROTC students. Are we missing opportunities by not allowing these kids to earn some community credits and things that they may be able to come up with their own ideas on how they can act and assist with security? I don't want any child being responsible for monitoring another student, but I think that children have a grapevine, and if somebody feels comfortable that this is our ambassador, they may talk and they may tell them something, whoever knows. I've said for a long time that we needed to post our code of conduct. Now I see we have a visitor's code of conduct coming out, and we're talking about doing a parent code of conduct. Madam Superintendent, I just think we're remiss by not posting it in every building when they first walk in the building. I just think I saw that at, where was it, years ago. I don't know if it's there, over there at West Hurdle, they had one. And your signs that you're putting together, are they visual? Are they signs that all people can communicate with? A picture of a knife cut, a sign no, or, you know, because we have people who don't speak English. Are we making sure that these signs that we can communicate without that because of our language barrier? I'm looking forward to seeing the other things that you are able to roll out. I have one other question, and that is, what about our SROs? Are they currently still active in our schools? Are they, how many are there? And the other question was, how many current security officers do we have on leave? Well, you said initially that you had 90, 82 assigned to high schools. How many of those are out on leave? What percentage? And we had asked that question before, and I think McGee gave us the answer, but I'm just curious if it has increased. So just you have, you're up and running, you're doing a great job. Sort of disappointed in NFTA because this problem continues to happen every year, that we don't have enough specials. But my real question is, has the NFTA officers had any culturally relevant training?
So I don't know. I have to follow up with Chief Patterson on that.
I would like to know what they've trained, because what they've taught them. But yeah, I'm just trying to make sure we start doing stuff in a uniform way. No one can say they did not see the code of conduct, because it's in every building. No one can say you didn't see the visitors. That one, the visitors policy, walking someone to the office, I don't know how that's going to work in most buildings, because sometimes the security officer is not there. So that one, that question in that one. But other than that, everything is great. We're on the right track. We certainly have someone who knows what they're doing as far as security is concerned, and I appreciate you so much. But I really would like to see uniformity across these buildings. I really do. I don't think it's fair to expect people of one school to do it and another school not to do it, and then expect children to hold the same responsibilities. So I'd like to know, and this should be an ongoing report. I would think that there would be a vacancy report that the superintendent gets every month, the amount of vacancies that exist. Every time we ask for that, it's that the report is being worked on. That is something I expect the superintendent to have every month. The same thing, the amount of people that are out, particularly of our security people, how many are out. I just want to know that, because we may have 90, but what if 25 are out? Who's monitoring the kids? You know what I mean? So thank you for that.
Chief Lark, it's Tammy Holly McGee from Human Resources. Do you have that information regarding the number of individuals that are out for security?
Executive Director Wagstaff gave me the number of about 10 security officers that are out on whether it's injured or on administrative leave.
That is correct. I just wanted to make sure you had the number.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
So what does that mean for the school? So we are paying them. If 82 are assigned and 10 are out, so that means that there's a shortage in staff, or what? How do you guys work that out?
Yeah, we are working with 10 less. What we do is we don't have the same number of security officers at every school. We have certain schools that require a higher number of security officers based on what's happening in those schools. We might have to run one less short there, or, but normally Director Wagstaff and his security supervisors adjust the manpower on a daily basis based on the number of call-ins or the number of security officers who are off for an extended amount of time.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Anyone else?
To answer your question, President Belton Cotman, the signage that we've had regarding the no weapons, it does have a picture with a red circle around a weapon and a slash through it. So that's, I believe, easily understandable for people with even a language barrier. And I've written down your questions, and I'll have to get answers back to you on some of the other things.
Right, but see, a weapon is more than just a gun.
Gun and knife, okay. Yes.
So
yes.
If we're talking people with a language barrier, we may not be able to put one on every picture, but a picture of a knife is one thing, a picture of so I'm glad you're doing something, but at least something is out there.
Right.
You do. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Hurd.
Thank you so much, Chairwoman Shula. I do have a couple of questions, and first of all, I would like to just openly come out and say that there's a great selection by the superintendent, Tanja Williams, in the selection of Lark, and working along with Wagstaff as director and deputy director. This is like the dream team here in the city of Buffalo, and just to having her here has made a great difference in security. And Wagstaff has held it down for years here in the district, working with our children, and just the conversation that we had, all the personal relationships that we have with our students and administrators, teachers is I don't know anyone who could have came in and did better. So I'd just like to congratulate the superintendent on the selection and Deputy Lark for coming in and helping us out, during these critical times, and bring her expertise into the district also. Of course, we talk about safety, and it goes in all different measures and all different ways. And the worst thing we hear is one of our children being harmed or being bullied or being forced to do something uncharacteristic, And I believe that the number of schools that we have and the number of children that we have in such a large district, it goes beyond, because our security reaches also the charter programs also. All our kids are included, and I always will continue to say that. Thank you for the collaborations that you put in your report that you have with all our other policing agencies here. I believe that that's something that we struggled in the past to achieve, and with these type of collaborations, we can help secure, a better future, for our children as they enter and out the buildings. And so, one of my first questions is concerning active shooter drills, or a person that comes into the building uninvited. What are we doing with that, with our staff members, our teachers, also administration and substitute teachers that happen to come into the building? How do we know they're aware of this type of training and what to do in these situations as they enter into our buildings and work with our children?
We currently have a training scheduled on the 26th of April, which is an early release day that's going to address emergency critical responses. And active shooter is going to be an extensive amount of subject matter on the active shooter. So they'll be more familiar with what to do. It's going to be videos. I'll put out some statistics and strategies and things like that. So this is just a precursor to some of the things that I have coming up. This training will take place via video, laptop, and so forth. And then after that, I do plan to bring in federal agencies that will do active shooter training with staff and security. Thank you.
Okay.
We also do lockdown drills on a regular basis. All of the schools are required to do that at least 3 times a year. They do them in the spring and in the fall. So, but those take place on a regular basis.
Okay, I would like to really be involved in that section. The worst thing that we see, and it's so common now here in this country, that we see active shooter drills or active shooters on the news, and it's very disheartening, when Buffalo's been through so much in the past year, and just to see these things all over the country and know that possibly could happen here, but knowing that we prepared for it and knowing that our staff knows what to do when it's happened. So the next question comes with that is about our cameras. Who has access to our cameras? Who can see inside of a building at this time if there was a threat here in the Buffalo schools?
Buffalo Police Department has access to our camera system. Security officers do, I do, in the Buffalo Police Department. Okay,
great. And I do love your idea about the signage, and I think that will play a key role in the community understanding, what's allowed, what's not allowed inside of our buildings when they do come. And I do like your mention of a revised visitor policy about parents or visitors having an appointment to come into the building. How long in advance would that appointment be necessary? Say if a child is sick, or maybe you have a child maybe having a mental disorder at the time, and a lot of times parents do come to help situate in emergency situations like that? How would that affect them?
Those
So
are
if a
emergency rates. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, if a child is sick, then that probably means that the school has reached out to the parent to come in to pick up the child. So that would be permissible.
But we know we had occasions where a child called their parents on their cell phones, and that's how the parent get notified.
If a child, yeah, we're never going to turn a parent away if a child is legitimately sick and is at school to pick up their child. So it's not really for that. It's for parents that are showing up at school that don't have appointments and sometimes are disruptive or get upset because they can't access a principal right away. Principal may be doing, lunch duty, maybe doing an APPR on a teacher. And so, unfortunately, that's kind of where we are again. Last year we ended the year and it went pretty smooth, where I sent something out to parents. I gave them a heads up on it. I did a robocall. And at the end of the day, all parents want their children to be safe. They want structure. They want organization. So we'll do the same thing again. It won't be just all of a sudden they show up and they didn't know. I'll do a robocall. I'll send something out. Schools will follow up and send something out so that they all know.
Okay. I mean, last year with the McKinley incident, that's one of the huge complaints about the parents are being notified of what the situation was or not knowing where their child was at during that time. And I know you took drastic steps to try to get remedies for that. And that I'm assuming that in Chief Lark's next presentation, all that would be included. Another thing that we notice inside our building is that ID badges and pictures. Of course, children know their teachers. They can identify people that's in the building that they work with on a regular basis. But strangers often do deliveries and come into the building without badges or picture ID. Any way we can limit that they must have some type of ID if they're working within our building, where they can show or wear out so they can be identified as someone who's working with the district?
Great idea. Yes, we can certainly implement that. That's not that difficult. It's just to send a message out, notify all of our principals. We'll put it in writing, and then we'll notify all of our principals that that's a requirement. Everybody should have ID and identification in a work badge.
Okay. And the next question is a couple more quick questions about sweeps for contraband. Is that being performed within our district, or is that something that that's on a needed basis?
Sweeps for contraband. Mr. Hurt, Board Member Hurt, what we currently do at the high school level now is each security officer every day is to check 25 lockers a day.
Okay.
So that helps with the checking for contraband or anything that may have gotten in that should not. But basically, that's for contraband.
I know it was mentioned earlier that we want our students to talk more and be more responsive, and with our adults, our administration, security officers. And I know that word do get around, when they feel that a child is maybe doing something that's harmful to them or others, or may have the possibility. So just on those reports, are we randomly checking those lockers or speaking with those students to see if it's something that we can do to stop the situation or to help them throughout whatever the crisis is?
Yes, and like I said earlier about the freshman orientation, the security department, the security officers work hand in hand with the school support teams, as well as the administrators. Sometimes the guidance counselor will alert a security officer, hey, this kid is not having a good day. Keep a set of eyes on him or her. Or this kid is unfortunately known for harming themselves. So let's make sure that we are comforting this child throughout the day and so forth. Or like I said earlier, if the kid is having a bad day and is subject to having a breakdown or what have you, the security officers in the school will help keep an eye on the kid, as well as give a report to the school support team and or the administrator of the school.
Okay. Thank you again. Thank you for your report. And I'm going to turn the floor back over to Mrs. Shula. And thank you for the work that you guys are doing.
Mrs. Woods, Paulette Woods, did you want to speak? her hand. I have a couple quick questions. What I'm concerned about is we're saying that we're going to hire 30 security guards for the next year. And I'm wondering, when are we going to start that process? Is there any way we can have them ready for September, or are we going to run into the problem where we're going to maybe get them at the end of October, the end of December? Is there any way that we can expedite that? That's one thing that I'd like to think about. And the electronic daily report, I'm wondering if that can be made available to us, if we could have a summary of an idea of what's happening at different schools. And the other thing, this is just things that I'll follow up with you and the superintendent. With the eval scanner, have we done any surveys to really take a look to see the effectiveness, to see if they've really fulfilled any of the goals we had? The swiftness of getting students in, and just the overall, have we asked the security guards, the administrators, anyone, if we're feeling that this is working properly? And the other thing, we did have a swatting incident in our district, and I'm wondering if we've given any protocols to the other schools, so they know what to expect if that's to happen again. So those are just some things, because we're running out of time.
Right. Oh, okay, Chief Lark?
Yes.
May I answer the question about the hiring of the security guards, please?
Yes, please. Go ahead. Thank you.
Thank you. So,
Thank you.
Board Member Shuda, thank you for that question. We're proud to say that we amped up our efforts in hiring security guards for this past school year since the February incident. And that was a charge that was given to us by Dr. Williams immediately. So there was no ifs, ands, and buts about it. In regards to funding for that, she put money aside quickly and indicated that we needed to hire more security guards. So with that being said, we hired an additional 43 security guards in the matter of 8 months.
Okay.
We screened them. Not everyone that came to the table to interview for security with Buffalo Public Schools were given an offer. However, we wanted the best and the brightest and the ones that were going to build relationships with our students to come and be a part of our security team. So we did that assessment with the help of Chief Wagstaff and Chief Lark. They were on the interview team, but we screened individuals to make sure that they had the proper guard card, the proper experience. We knew that they could get cleared with civil service, and they had the proper experience. And they had the willingness to want to work with our students in a way that would cultivate relationships and not punitive and punishment behavior. So we wanted to be very calculated about who we brought in as security. So we did that. And with that being said, we do ongoing interviews every 2 weeks.
Perfect.
Yep. So it hasn't stopped. Even though we pretty much have matched our goal of hiring all the security guards for the district for this past school year, we're still continuing to do that. Every 2 weeks on, I don't know if it's Wednesdays or Thursdays, there's a group of individuals that are passed on to Chief Lark and Executive Director Wagstaff. They interview those individuals, and the ones that they find that are a match for our district, they are then sent back to us so that we can send them the proper paperwork so they can be cleared by civil service and considered for positions.
Okay. So then, the 30 new ones in September, we shouldn't have a problem.
I don't believe we will, because I'm excited to really talk about June 3rd. We're having a huge recruitment event. We're inviting all of the board members to participate and be a part of this huge recruitment event for all industries in the Buffalo Public School system. So security will be highlighted and will be there to participate and provide information about how to become a security guard with Buffalo Public Schools.
Okay,
So
great.
we're doing big billboards all across all sectors of Buffalo Public Schools. You'll see them in South Buffalo, North Buffalo, West, and the East Side, promoting come and work for Buffalo Public Schools. And then we're also doing, you'll hear radio information about the hiring event in June. You'll see billboards and posters and things like that. We'll get those all to you guys so that you can share those with your constituents as well.
Okay,
but we're doing a huge hiring event in June to prepare for September to make sure that we have enough staff.
I appreciate it. That's great.
You're
Thank you
welcome.
so much.
You're welcome.
Okay, Chairwoman Shuda, regarding the electronic daily reports, I don't see any reason why we can't prepare a summary of what's happening in the schools and get that information to you.
Thank you.
And we don't have a survey just yet. We're going to be meeting with Evolve just to kind of go over some of the reports that we're being receiving, and then once we've done that, we'll conduct a survey. We're also going to finalize our policies and procedures regarding for Evolve before it gets to the elementary school level.
Thank you. Thank you.
You mentioned swatting. Our SROs do lockdown drills with the schools, and we are in the process of revising our emergency response to critical incidents, and that's going to be sent out to all of the schools. So they'll be quite familiar with the lockdown, lockout, and shelter-in-place protocols.
Okay, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Ms. Woods, you had your hand up. I don't know if you wanted to say anything before we finish.
Yes, I did. I did want to mention that in all of this that we are concerned about safety and security, let us please not forget that the parents said in the listening tours that they wanted to feel welcome in the schools. They wanted to be able to come into our schools to check on their children, that a few bad eggs should not change our customer service perspective. Our parents are still our eyes and ears on things going on in the schools. They do tell us different things on the internet. We do need to also balance out this focus on security with recognizing our parents need to be welcome and feel this is a positive environment and that they can contribute and have a role. I just wanted to mention that so we have some balance in this perspective.
Thank you. Dr. Williams, if you'd like to close so we can go on to the next meeting.
Sure. Thank you, Madam Chairwoman, and thank you, Chief Lark and Executive Director Wagstaff and board members for all of the comments and questions. I think for all of us, you know, if there's one thing that keeps us up at night is making sure that everybody is safe. It's a big job. It's going to take all of us. But, you know, just like I said earlier, I hope what you're able to see and hear, you know, when we have committee meetings, we tell the truth. We tell the truth about what is happening. And so what you've heard is that, you know, are we absolutely there? No, but we are progressing to get to where we need to be. And so, you know, I just want to say thank you to the team, to the work they're doing. It's not easy work. You know, the weather is getting warmer. The days are getting longer. And, you know, our teams have to be more astute than ever before. Board Member Woods, I certainly hear the concerns, and we will always, it's my expectation, be respectful, be welcoming. That's why I want to be the person. I think that our parents need to hear it from me. You know, I don't want different messages going out from different schools. It'll be a message that I craft to our parents on, you know, what the visitor expectations will be, what the system will be. You know, I will be the person that's the voice they'll hear. is my voice. And I'll be the one that signs the letter. And, you know, if there are concerns or questions, I'll be the person that they can, you know, address those with. So please know that, you know, we will be respectful, restorative, welcoming, and all of that. But there will be some structure, and, you know, we want to keep everybody safe. So that's all.
Thank you. Okay, the next. Thank you very much. Okay, the next, I'm going to turn it over to Chairperson, Mr. Scott.
Thank you, Mrs. Shuda. We will now open up the work session for student achievement and referencing our board training recently. It looks like we're going to spend some good quality time on student outputs and progress monitoring towards
Yay.
what we should be focusing on. Number one, student outcomes. So I'm not going to say anything further. Turn it over to Dr. Williams. And we'll introduce Chief Ann Botticelli.
I won't say a lot. We're just about on time. I want us to stay in that sphere on time. So I will turn things over to our Chief Academic Officer. She's done a tremendous amount of work. There's been a lot of thought. She has, you know, worked a lot with different folks to make sure that the program is comprehensive. Safety and security is a part of it. Certainly working with Chief Holly McGee and her team on staffing. And so I will let her share where we are with respect to our summer program that's being solidified.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for inviting me to come talk a little bit about summer school. So this is actually a two-part presentation. I'm going to start with some of our summer 2022 data and then move into what our summer 2023 will potentially look like. And I do want to preface this presentation by saying this is a very high-level presentation. I have heard the board's request for disaggregated data, so please understand, I recognize that that is something that you would like to see. I plan to return to provide a deeper look into our summer school results. We're currently working with OSA to do a deep dive so that we can inform this year's summer programming. But for now, I'm going to give you sort of the big picture overview, and then we can, in the future, take a deeper look into some of our other data. Abner, can you go to the next slide, please? Thank you. So briefly, I just want to mention it will be focusing on the first three of the superintendent's goals. So as always, we want to focus on achievement and, focus on achievement and eliminate opportunity gaps. We want to talk about educational excellence, accelerated learning, and I'm also going to touch on how we are planning to prioritize safety and security in our summer programs. Next slide, please. That should be the last slide. Can you go to the next slide, Edna? So, two more. Perfect, thank you. Oh, go back one more slide. Okay, well, I'll just talk about the other one. Okay, so for pre-K-6 last summer, we had a predicted enrollment of about 3,000 students. What that means for us is we register many students, but they may, by fourth quarter, have begun to perform more successfully, or at some point their parents might have made a different choice for their summer programming. So all of the students that we initially registered may not attend our summer programming. So in the end, we had a completion of 2,248 students finished through the program. So students studied reading and mathematics as their core, and they participated in various enrichment opportunities, which included things like CLRI, STEM. We pulled in some Native American resource programming last year. So they had a lot of opportunities to stay engaged with the material while we were still providing that important intervention for them in reading and math. Next slide, please. So we administered a pre and post test for the summer program at pre-K-6 last year, and you can see our data results. On the left, you'll see the summer programming data for math. On the right side of the slide, you'll see the results for reading. As you can tell, for mathematics, grade 1 was where we saw the most improvement in scores between the beginning and the end of the program. So we used a curriculum called Math for Love, which is actually the same one that Say Yes uses. It's a gamified, very engaging, hands-on curriculum, and the students really enjoy working with the mathematical problems. And then on the right side of the slide, you can see our reading results. And we actually showed the biggest gains in reading for kindergarten, 1st, 5th, and 6th. So these include matched scores. So these would be students who had both a pre-test and a post-test. So you can see we showed continual improvement in every single grade, with the minor exception of grade 6 in the mathematics results, which was a small dip. But in general, our students performed fairly evenly or showed growth in the program. Next slide, please. So in the summer of last year for 7th and 8th grade, we had students who attended programming to recover units of study in English and math, science, and social studies. So our promotion policy is that students must pass ELA and math in either science or social studies. So many of the students took 1 class, 2 classes, some had a full day of coursework. Next slide, please. So here you can see our results for the 7th and 8th grade program. So this only includes students who actually attended. Sometimes students might be registered and not come to the program. So this data only includes students who actually participated in the program. So you can see our most successful passing rates were in 8th grade English and 7th and 8th grade mathematics. But overall, students did fairly well and were able to pass the coursework for the summer. So in the end, we had about 85% success when you look at all of the coursework. Next slide, please, Admir. So at the high school, students also come to recover credits. They took classes in English, mathematics, science, social studies, and in this case, they were also able to take courses in CTE, world languages, music, art, and phys ed or health. Next slide, please. So here are the course credits that were recovered during the summer. You can also see that we graduated 72 students last summer. So this data includes students who completed the course. So if they didn't complete the coursework, they're not included in this particular data set. So we had pretty good passing rates, you can see, for programs like art, mathematics. They recovered a lot of credits in social studies, in their PE and health. So students were able to get back on track if they had fallen behind in their early years, or if they were getting ready to graduate, they were able to recover these credits so they could graduate in August. Next slide, please. These are the Regents results. So there were 3,214 tests that were actually attempted. Credits received numbered 866. We had better passing results in certain courses compared to others. And just please note that the U.S. history exam was canceled, so these students were able to earn the exemption for that particular exam. One of the things that we're doing right now is working to do an analysis of past Regents results. So 2022's June results, August results, this year's January results, so that we can do a more informed curricula, or provide a more informed curricula for our staff this summer. We really want to target areas where students struggled on the Regents exams to make sure that we're providing them with all the support they need so they can be successful. Next slide, please, Edmund. And then, one of our favorite bragging points is the Earn While You Learn program. We partnered with the mayor, and we enrolled 112 students last summer. 104 of those students completed, and they attempted 265 credits and earned 223.5 credits. So that's a pretty impressive benchmark. So 21 of the 35 students were able to graduate based on this coursework. So again, we always want to say a huge thank you to the mayor for providing this opportunity to our students. Thank you to our teachers and principals for really supporting these kids throughout the summer. It's a fantastic opportunity for them, and you can see it's very successful. Next slide, please. So I want to talk a little bit about what summer is going to look like this year. So Abner, next slide. So pre-K to 6 is going to look similar to last year. You can see the sites listed here on the slide. We have tried to rotate through different schools to give different opportunities. So again, the program will be from July 10th to August 11th. And we have full day programs. Schools either start at 8 or start at 9 o'clock. This offers students opportunities for both remediation and enrichment, which is why it's such an engaging program for the students. So in pre-K, it'll be a continuation of what they've been doing to make sure they're ready to start kindergarten in the fall. For reading, this has been developed by the reading department, and it's going to be informed by all the work we've been doing with phonics and really trying to make sure kids are solid with decoding skills. And we also try to offer engaging texts to keep the kids interested during the summer. Mathematics in grades K to 5, we're going to continue with the Math for Love curriculum, which we used last year. And grade 6 will be using the program from Curriculum Associates, which is very targeted towards success in the math, the math curriculum. And then for enrichment, we'll have a variety of offerings. There will be some CLRI lessons. We're again going to include our Native American Resource Program information. We'll have social emotional opportunity lessons for the students, physical education, STEM opportunities, music, art, world languages. So we want to keep the kids engaged. Even though we know a lot of the time is spent really trying to bolster their reading and math skills, we want to make sure that they're enjoying and engaging with the program throughout the summer. Next slide, please. So we'll be hubbing in 7th and 8th grade. So you can see the sites listed here. And again, the program will be from July 10th to August 11th. There are full day and half day programs, but every site will have teachers there for the full day. So the teachers work the whole day, but students may be in morning or afternoon sessions or full day sessions. So this gives students the opportunity to retake 4 of the core classes as needed. So again, we want them to pass English and math and science or social studies, although students may opt to take all of them. Next slide, please, Abner. These are our proposed summer school hubs for 9 to 12. So again, the dates are slightly different. It's going to be July 12th to August 15th, and then the Regents exams are the 16th and 17th of August. So they'll have full day programming at the hub sites. We've decided to assign the charters by zip code. We don't know yet how many charter school students will be participating, but we believe this is going to be the most effective way to disperse the students across the district, so we'll go by zip code. 131 will also be assigned by zip code. And then you can see some of our other hub locations. So we worked closely with BPD, the NFTA, Chief Lark and her team to make sure that we vetted the hub locations. We have evolved scanners at the high school level that students will access. And then K to 12, we actually have building security guards. So every site in the program will have security staff. Next slide, please. We also offer a number of boutique programs, I guess. So we target students who are in great need to, to maintain and continue to grow on their IEPs throughout the summer. So the ESY, or Extended School Year Program, is offered at OTC, 84, Day Treatment, 79 and 93. It's a full day program. It runs from July 3rd to August 11th. And students with disabilities who have a documented severity of need or have exhibited some form of regression based on a formula, they will be invited to the program, and they'll be supported throughout to maintain and or continue to grow on their IEP skills. Next slide, please. We'll be offering 2 multilingual programs again this year. So at School 45, from July 10th to August 11th, they'll be hosting Say Levanta and Jumpstart. So Say Levanta is for students currently enrolled in our dual education programs, and Jumpstart is for English language learners who are at the entering or emerging levels. So those are kids who've really only been enrolled for less than a year. And it's target, actually that one will go to 12th grade, but it targets the youngest students in particular. Next slide, please. We have a number of CTE specialty programs. So the CTE department has been busy coordinating with the schools. So Burgard will be offering the Advanced Manufacturing Program, or AMP, as you've probably heard it called. Emerson will continue their culinary program over the summer. Culinary School will continue the culinary program. McKinley offers a horticulture program and the Urban Teachers Academy. Riverside has their conservation program running this summer. At Northland, we'll be offering workforce training. And then the Buffalo Area Engineering and Awareness Program will take place at Buffalo State. So there are many opportunities for students to continue along their CTE pathways. Next slide, please. There's a few other specialty programs. For example, Research Lab hosts their summer bridge for freshmen. Middle Early College has their summer institute with Buffalo State. CLRI, among many of the opportunities they provide, will have the My Brother's Keeper program as well as internship offerings at Roswell Park. So you can see there is a huge variety of offerings that we continue to provide to our students, both students in need of intervention and remediation and students who are looking to accelerate along their pathways. One more slide, please, Andrew. So for music and art, we're again offering Mural Mania, Woke Words, and Stage and Song. So these are programs run by the art department. They're all half day. They are for students who are entering grades 6 through 12. And those students often work together. So they produce a musical, they create a mural, they do live poetry, and they really exercise all those creative juices and really thrive on their opportunities through the art program. And then orchestra camp is being expanded this year. Last year it was grades 3 and 4. We've added grades 5 and 6 as well this year, and we've moved it to performing arts so that students will have the opportunity to access the wealth of music programming that is available at the performing arts site. So we're really encouraging kids to register if they play string instruments for us currently. So if they've taken lessons, if they participated in our orchestra programming, they are invited to join us at camp this summer. And camp is a little bit more than just orchestra. They put on productions and they have engaging activities and they play games, and we got rave reviews last year, so that's why we decided to expand it this year. Next slide, please, Andrew. Our Buffalo Athletic Program under Assistant Superintendent Mike House is continuing to offer their sports camp menu. So there'll be strength conditioning as well as different opportunities like swimming, basketball, flag football, track, cheer dance, soccer, and volleyball. So again, a lot of opportunities for our students. They can dive into the arts, they can work with athletics, they can receive acceleration and remediation in our programming. We try to really hit the gamut of all the students' needs and desires. And there is one final program. We partner with Say Yes. Next slide, please, Admir. So we continue with them this year with the Say Yes summer camps. So that will be from July 10th to August 17th. Students can choose a full or half-day program, and there are sites throughout the city. And this year, for the first time, the Say Yes Little Scholars will be having summer programming at schools 94 and 90. That is only for students who are currently enrolled in that 3-year-old program. Okay, that concludes my presentation, but I'm happy to take questions.
Thank you, Chief Botticelli. Excellent presentation on some data, lots of good data on our students, and then what is being planned for summer school this coming summer. I will go around alphabetical order. I have a couple questions, but I'll conclude with my questions. We'll start in alphabetical order with President Belton-Cottman. Any questions?
Yes, thank you for your presentation. I do have some questions. I have some concerns, really. No, I like what you put together. I think it's rigorous, but I'm concerned that the extracurricular things are overlapping with the time period that we need to have children focused in on academics. And so I'm concerned that children who need to be in the classroom is not necessarily going to be in the classroom because you're offering an art program that they might want to take. And it just seems like there should be a way that we should be able to do it both. We should be able to get them in get their academic piece, and then allow them, after they've finished their subjects or whatever, maybe after that session is over, to start taking the extracurricular stuff. I don't understand why the true emphasis in this district with what we're seeing with progress is not primarily focused in this year on academics. And that's what my question is.
Primarily, I apologize.
No, go ahead. Say what you have to say.
It is primarily focused on academics. The schools go through, for example, in pre-K6, and recommend students for the program. So they're contacting families.
That's not equity. That's not equity. Equity provides all kids an opportunity to have exposure to music and art and etc. So when I look at the Mayor's Summer Youth Program, the question came to me was, how were those children selected? Were they the ones that we know are going to be successful so that we can make the mayor's program look great? We always want to make the mayor look great. I certainly do. Or did we go after the kids that really needed the big support, the big lift? Okay, because when you look at the information, when I started looking at that, we had 3,200 students, and of that, 866 completed. Dr. Williams, remember when we started talking about what's ABC? When we start evaluating things, we have no problems giving our kids ABCDs. So if we're not working these numbers to the degree where we know we got a teacher here that comes every year whose children are not, who's not getting the results, why are they being allowed to come back the next year? Because they got seniority? You understand what I'm saying? I don't know how deep these numbers are being, but I could not reference your slides because they weren't numbered. So I can't go back and tell you, go back to slide number 4, because I lost count of your slides. So my concern in looking at this, and I appreciate it, is I feel that the extracurricular thing should have been set up so that all children could take a part in it, not just a handful of selected kids. Okay, so if I go to summer school and I work hard, my incentive for doing that is that I may be able to take music after that for the rest of the summer. I don't see where in this district where we are struggling academically that the true focus is on making sure that every child in this district gets lifted up if the opportunity exists for them not to be in the classroom doing academics. That's what my concern is here when I look at this scheduling. I really do. I look at your arts program, Dr. Williams, and I see that the art program is overlapping at the same time that we have the academic piece. That's what my concern is. Why, and with what our numbers are looking like after COVID, I would think that all efforts are on academics this summer. All efforts are moving children to the next level. And then once you do your hard stuff, now we're going to let you do some fun stuff for the rest of the summer. That's what I'm looking at, because parents are looking for places for their children to go the whole summer. It's not like they're not. But think about that. How do you take certain kids and provide them with an opportunity to take art classes, and other kids are not being given that opportunity because they're required to go to school for academics? I'm not getting that. That's not feeling good for me right now. Help me understand this.
So in pre-K6, we do provide art and music opportunities and world language and lots of things to engage the students. They don't spend the entire day doing the intervention program. That is the reason. That is actually the reason, because we want to engage them. We want them to come with us to get the intervention, but then also enjoy the program itself. So we try to enrich all the students who come with us for that pre-K6 program.
Well, I saw that. I agree. I understand that. But do you understand what I'm saying? Do you understand that there might be a child that has to get that go through that piece, but really would like to, that is talented enough to be a part of the other piece? How are you coming up with the selection of the children is what I'm looking at. That's all.
So the student is registered, for example, I think you're talking about 7-8. The student is registered for the program based on the courses they need to recover, but we have morning opportunities and afternoon opportunities. So the entire day might not be taken up by the credit recovery piece. But if a student needs to recover 3 to 4 classes, then there wouldn't necessarily be time in the day for some of the other opportunities. But we do know there are some students that don't need to recover credits, and we wanted to make sure that we provided opportunities for them to engage with
I appreciate that. I understand that. And I understand what you're trying to do. But when we start looking at things with an equity lens, we make sure that all children can have an opportunity. Why wouldn't a kid want to take stage and song? You see what I'm saying? Who wouldn't want to do that for the summer? Who wouldn't want to take doing murals? So you've got an art department running the same time as the education, as the academic piece. That's what my concern is here. You've got the music department, the orchestra happening the exact same time that you've got the academic piece. So my kid needs to recover, but can't my kid at least get an opportunity to go to orchestra camp sometime?
So the orchestra camp is grades,
out.
The orchestra camp is grades 3 to 6, to your point, and we do have other opportunities for students in grades K to 6 to
well,
do
maybe
things
I'm
they might
looking
not be
more for the
orchestra.
7th and 8th graders is what I'm really focusing in on. The 7th and 12th graders, I guess, because Mural Mania is from 6 to 12. Okay.
Yes.
Woke
So
Words
it's
is from 6 to 12. July the 10th to August the 11th. That's all I'm saying. I'm just saying that it just seems like children are not given the opportunity. Some kids are not being afforded the opportunity because maybe they struggle harder to learn something, but that doesn't mean that they shouldn't be able to do an art project and have fun too at this caliber. That's all my point is. I'm about equity. So anytime I look at anything, I'm going to look at it with an equity lens. And last year we did that. Last year we had students who were solely in this project. So here's my question. How do you select the kids? Because how do you let somebody go to a mural mania project and they end up needing to take academics? I just need some clarity to help me with that.
We would not be, if a student was supposed to be in the recovery program, we would have that conversation with the parent. Because we want them to be promoted to the next grade level, and if they needed to recover courses, that would be our initial conversation. We can, because there is a morning and an afternoon, we can certainly have conversations with parents that may want their student to participate in an arts program in the morning and then perhaps recover some credits in the afternoon. It would depend on the particular family situation, but it's something we could consider.
Well, I just want you, when you start doing this stuff, to start looking at it with an equity lens. This orchestra camp is great to do, okay? As limited as it was last year, it wasn't a lot of students. But at the end of the day, I might be able to play an instrument, but I may be struggling with academics. I think, we got to just start looking at making sure that children get opportunities. These are called drawing cards. These are the things that will keep a parent with a school district. Customer service, just need, if it can't be, we just got to start looking at things differently as far as all children. I know it's a hard equation to do, but I'm gonna point it out when I see it. That's how I'm gonna do it.
And I think some of the athletic programs are tailored that way, so the student who may need to recover a few classes still has the opportunity to participate in the conditioning.
Yeah, but how does he get there? How does he get transported there?
I can't speak to Mike's program, but I believe they probably use the NFTA the way. If they're coming to school for other purposes, we would have given them an NFTA pass.
So you're saying that they can't. So I just think those are things that we need to start looking at. We're providing certain kids with opportunities and we're not providing other kids with opportunities. The reason for getting the orchestra program going was because we had not provided musical instruments in our district to all our schools for years. So I'm just pointing that stuff out. Somebody just texted me and said, that's right. So some parents are watching this I just want to point this out. And we got to start looking at stuff with an equity lens. What does equity lens mean? It might not mean that you start July the 10th, that you start a week earlier or a week right directly after that, after the holiday, after the 4th. But we got to start looking at how do we make sure all children get the opportunity to take advantage of things. That's all. That's my 2-bit, and I'm sorry if I'm raining on any parades, but I gotta say what I gotta say, and that's how I
Point
feel.
well taken. Point well taken.
All right. Thank you, President Bilton Cotman. Dr. Kathy Evans Brown. Any questions?
Well, I'm wondering, and you know, the data was nice to see for a change when it comes to the summer. Now, does that include the Say Yes data, or is just the district data?
I'm sorry, which data point were you talking about? The K-6 data?
All of the data.
Does it include the Say Yes summer camps, I think is what?
No,
Dr.
they track their data separately.
Oh, okay, because that's something that I know for me, I was always interested in. So I'm glad to see that the district is showing some improvements in the data when it comes to summer. So on that note, I'm wondering, I know we partner with Say Yes, but it sounds like it's two separate summer entities. So for example, Say Yes has roughly 60 sites, let's say, throughout the summer. And the district has certain sites which you depicted on your PowerPoint. It just seems to me that there needs to be more conversation, more coordination with what Sharon is saying. So if I used to run one of those summer Say Yes camps back in the day when they first started, and I know that, you know, our children, it was all day program. And some of the enrichment activities we would do in the afternoon to include, you know, some extra stuff like, you know, made on a misc, rock climbing, you know, just different things to give these kids exposure to opportunities that they may not have had, right? So it just seemed to me then that there needs to be more collaboration with the district when it comes to these specialized extracurricular activities like orchestra. You know, if I knew that my program had these kids in the academic day, let's say from 9 to 12, then if I know the district had orchestra or art or, you know, words, then I would, you know, have my kids have that exposure. And if the parents somehow could get them there, I don't know, a bus, whatever, they would have that opportunity. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know how much coordination and collaboration we do with Say Yes summer program.
We actually meet with them regularly. So we filter when they receive their registrations and we receive ours. We cross-reference and make sure that the students who we need to target in our program are given that advice that we would be really, we would be providing them a very targeted intervention-rich program. Other students, though, may choose Say Yes for different reasons, but we do cross-reference to make sure we don't double enroll students, for example. We also work with multilingual to make sure that if a student really belongs in the dual language program or the Jumpstart program, that they don't accidentally register for one of the other programs. So we're very careful to cross-reference all of the enrollment to make sure that we're targeting students with the appropriate amount of intervention.
Well, that's good. So you do give them an opportunity to know that these specialized extracurriculars are available to them.
Yes, so at the pre-K6 level, our schools definitely recommend to parents whether they think they should attend our program because they want to make sure they get that deep level of intervention. But there may be families at that point that choose Say Yes instead, but we would be cognizant of that because we would have had conversations when we look at the enrollment. And again, we always want to look at the multilingual students to make sure that they're getting the appropriate placement because a family who's new to the country may not realize that the Jumpstart program is actually right for them. So we contact the families and tell them that we recommend that they join our Jumpstart program. So we try to be very purposeful when we're helping families kind of select the programming that they want for the summer. And every family, especially at the elementary level, is going to make different choices. They may say, I really want the Say Yes program. My son's been doing it for years. And we understand that. And they provide a really rich program as well. So we do work with them, and we actually we have the same math curriculum in our K-6 that they have in theirs.
Okay, thank you.
I didn't realize I was muted. Thank you, Dr. Evans-Brown. Mr. Hurd, any questions?
No questions. I think that Mrs. Betticelli has really worked very hard to get these programs established. I know that this is something that we've been wanting and the community has been asking for. So thank you for all the good work that you're doing, and continue on. I'm sure that our parents will come back with a lot of questions themselves. So I know your phone will be ringing.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hurd. Mrs. Shuda, any questions?
I just have a couple comments. First of all, I want to thank the superintendent and Mrs. Botticelli for taking a look at the high school locations. I think when it comes to safety, to have schools that are familiar with their kids, and I think that's going to work well and we'll have good results. I also I want to compliment Mrs. Botticelli for the targeted regents exams, the instruction with their curriculum, and I just know how much a solid and efficient summer school program helps schools obtain what they need when it comes to graduation. So good job, folks. I appreciate it, and I look forward to good results. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Shuda. Board Member Woods, any questions?
I just want to say, looking at the materials, that the program seems very balanced. It does have special programs for the special needs children and the multilingual children, and it indicated that the students could recover up to 4 credits. So it seems to be a very broad-based, excellent program. And as long as you remember to put a little cake in there where after 9, 2, somewhere they can get a course in there as a reward, I think it'll work well.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Woods. My 2 questions, and Chief Botticelli, you may have already explained this and I missed it, but the first or second slide that you shared with the beginning of the year and end of the year data, when are you taking that beginning of the year and end of the year data for those students?
So it's a 5-week program. It's a 5-week program, and they take it at the very beginning and the very end. So there's not a lot of time.
So the beginning and the end of the summer. Okay.
Of the 5 weeks, yes.
Wow. Okay. And it
doesn't give you a ton of time to grow. So when we do see that growth, we're excited.
Yeah, that's definitely remarkable in that short amount of time. And it seems like, as you pointed out, that in the earlier grades, kindergarten, first grade, second grade, is where you're seeing the most impact, which you would presume has a long-term impact as those students progress into later grades. Correct?
We had a heavy emphasis on phonics, for example, at the lower grades over the summer, because we knew after COVID that was really something we needed to focus on. So I think that explains some of the growth that we saw in the primary grades. The grades where the students struggle a little bit more were grades that we already knew we have to focus on, because those were some of the kids that during the pandemic had the most inconsistent experience. So we know where we need to target our time and attention. We're focusing on them during the regular school year. We'll continue to do that during the summer.
Very good. And the other question I had, you on one of your slides for the summer school programming or summer 9 to 12 summer planning, you mentioned charters and they're assigned by zip code. Can you explain that? We're providing summer programming to charter school students?
As the LEA, we're responsible for the summer program if they choose to come to us.
So if a student, it looks like high school charter student.
Well, we would offer it across the board, but typically it's the high school students who need to recover credits. Some programs will offer their own, like some schools will offer their own summer program, but it varies year to year. And so we're waiting to hear from some of the charters what their plans are for the summer. We have heard from a couple, so we know we will have some students coming. Last year we housed all the charter students at Hutch Tech. But this year we decided to disperse them across the district a little more equitably.
So we are obligated by state regulation to provide that summer school programming to charter school students?
Mm-hmm.
And do you have any idea, an estimate on how many students, for example, last year we serviced?
Last year was unique because many of the high school charters offered their own programs. I think maybe a year or two prior, we had about 200 students.
Okay, that's news to me, and I assume it's not. It's something that we're paying for. It's not the charter schools that are paying for that summer school programming.
No, I mean it's our program. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
But again, they have the option of providing their own. So we'll know probably towards the end of third quarter, beginning of fourth, what they anticipate doing.
All right, thank you, Chief Botticelli. Dr. Williams, any closing comments?
No, great job. The team has been working, for months on trying to get everything together. And, just to President Koppman's point, certainly, we looked at equity when we looked at making sure that we had summer schools in different locations. We wanted to make sure that we had different sectors of the city. We didn't just want summer schools in one area or another. We had a very comprehensive meeting with security teams from NFTA, from everywhere. We had come with one plan, and after we had a conversation with them and hearing some of the concerns that they had, we were able to change that up. We, spoke with principals to hear really what they wanted to, have happen. So we really have tried to, increase the level of equity. I certainly heard the concerns today, though, about, just students having to choose between the academic piece and having some opportunity for enrichment. It's something I'll have to speak with the team about. I know that staffing is always a bit of a challenge, for summer, and it seems like it's becoming more and more of a challenge. Getting staff who, will work some of these summer school programs. But I'll meet with the team and we'll see, where we can, modify and try to support some of that.
Thank you. I don't want you to think I don't appreciate the work you've done and your staff. You have done an excellent job. But I just think that we have to look at everything with an equity lens and just trying to make sure that, we tailor some things a little differently to make sure all children can have exposure sometime.
Yep.
I appreciate you so much. Appreciate the work that you guys are doing. I am going to be looking for those numbers, however, before a year out. I really would like to see the data before the next, right after, by September or so we can start planning a little bit differently for next year. Thank you. As we move forward with looking at student data, board, student data is what we want to look at. But I do want to ask the question at all times, is this A, B, C, D? E for effort? F? You
No
had a
F.
problem doing it with
No
kids?
F.
No F. E for
No
effort.
F.
You always get an E for effort.
That's right.
Yeah, but thank you. We do have one other part to do this. Board members, I don't know if you guys are aware that we do need to go into executive session to discuss something. So if you just bear with us for another 15, 20 minutes, we can wrap this meeting up, this day up. And I guess the next question is, do you want to continue doing these board meetings in once a month, do four committees at one time and save yourself from having to give up another Wednesday. So you might want to, since you were so efficient today, you might want to think about the difference between having 2 sessions or 1 sessions. So you think about that moving forward.
I'm going to suggest that we also, when we hopefully bring in AJ for continued work, that we reconsider how we're doing our work sessions and the committees that we have to be more efficient.
Well, that's part of the training, and EJ sent me over a contract yesterday, I guess, and I'll be forwarding it over to Nate. I think they have my personal email mixed up, but and Dr. Caressi's this morning, I asked him to take a look at what's involved here. So Nate, I saw that in my personal email. I'll be sending it over to you so you can take a look at it. But the work sessions and board meetings, you guys are going to have to decide what you're going to change or whatever. But if you start focusing in on student data, that's what we're supposed to be doing. Focusing in on the student data piece and trying to make sure we move stuff to the next level. So we're going to look at this contract and Nate can bring it before the board next week at our formal board meeting. He can do it then. So that's where we are. So if you're through, Madam, Madam Chair, we can go into executive session if that's possible. Are you through, Madam Chair?
I'm the chair.
Yes. I'm sorry. I'm looking at Terry.
We can conclude our student achievement committee.
My bad, Larry.
That's all right.
My bad. Sorry
it's late.
That. It's very late, and I'm coming off of a vacation and just came in. Haven't even been here 24 hours yet. Okay, so may I have a motion to go into executive session to discuss the potential purchase or lease of real property? May I have a motion?
Motion.
Motion. I second it.
Terry and Kathy. Okay, so Amir, would you take off anybody that is not a board member and